Is trading real? Is this something that you can actually make money from, or is everyone lying? You can literally get to 10K a month in a very short space of time, and that's why trading is an amazing thing. But should everyone be a trader?
You've spoken to many traders, yeah, on your podcast, and I'm sure you would have spoken to more traders off camera as well. How can you tell who's legit and who's not?
He told me to my face. He sat there like this, like opposite each other, and he said to me, all these accounts are fake. He faked a withdrawal. He even told me he doesn't trade. He doesn't like trading. They just turned out to be just faking it. Being those typical people that people are worried about on social media. Right?
They're scamming their own audience.
The real way how they're making the money though, or how they're doing this, even the people so-called trading, they're not even trading. They literally just have broker deals.
I haven't done intros in a long time, so I'm going to try this. What's going on, people? Welcome back to the CEOCAST, the #1 podcast in the world for showcasing business and entrepreneurship. Now, what happens when you take that podcast for showcasing business and entrepreneurship and combine it with the #1 trading podcast in the world? Well, today, I'm here with the one and only Riz Iqbal from Words of Rizdom. How you doing, Riz?
I'm really good. It's a pleasure to be here, man.
I appreciate you coming on, bro. You've been absolutely killing the podcast scene, killing the trading scene. Very experienced. So my first question I've got for you, Riz, is people listen to this podcast. Why should they listen to you?
It's a very good question. Why should they listen to me? I think I've had a good skill set of being very impartial and balanced. I have the skill set of asking good questions similar to yourself. And I've been doing it long enough now to sort of build those repetitions, to learn from the game, if you will, of podcasting, learn how to pivot, how to remember those sort of questions. And really the whole aim of the podcast is to show the reality of trading, because there's one image online, you know, that probably most people hear about, even if they're not traders. They see the flashy cars and the easy lifestyle that's promoted.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then there's the reality of trading. And that's kind of the beauty of the podcast, is that it's to speak the reality of trading, the ups and downs, but more importantly, those downs. Like, what does it actually take to be a trader? What's involved with being a trader? And that's probably why I would say that people should listen.
Yeah, no, sweet as. I want to know where this all starts for you, Riz. So let's just start off straight off the bat. How old are you now, if you don't mind me asking?
28 now.
28? You're still very young, bro.
28. Everyone thinks I'm like 40 years old. I don't know what it is.
No, but you do look a bit older, but that's a good thing. But 28 years old, so you're still killing it. When did this all start for you then? Take me back to Riz as a child.
Riz as a child?
Yeah, I want to go that back.
We'll go that far back. So Riz as a child is an interesting story. So it kind of, my life story, if you will, started when I was about 5 years old. That was like a pivotal moment for me. Growing up, I didn't see it that way, or maybe I did, because I kind of always would want to bring it up. You know, that was a weird thing. So I used to always, anyone I'd meet, I'd want to bring this thing up all the time. I don't know, I didn't understand that at the time, but now I do. But yeah, my dad passed away when I was 5 years old. So
sorry to hear that.
It's all good. But when he passed away, it kind of shaped my life. It taught me a lot in terms about legacy. I did put like some maybe subconscious fears into me about like dying young and not knowing what it takes to be a man, etc., which then showed up later in life. But that kind of shaped my trajectory, because thanks to my mum though, I never really experienced, other than not maybe having a male figure in my life, she really worked hard and really built herself up and created a career both in the law profession and then in real estate as well, and really was instilling a very powerful mindset into me, and you know, trying to make it that I didn't really feel like I missed out on opportunities. And that's a very big blessing. But I learned so much in terms of mindset, in terms of, you know, just how short life can be, right? And the power of legacy, like I said. And that kind of has instilled into everything else that I've done, you know, the podcast being one of them. And that shaped me massively into who I am today. And, you know, as part of that, I think that was where the entrepreneurship came from, my mum and my dad, because, you know, before he passed away, he owned like corner shops.
Yeah.
And was doing quite well at the time. And my mum continued that legacy as well through her own sort of, like I said, real estate and through her own profession. And she really instilled a powerful mindset. She was always wanting me to go down the university route, but I kind of always knew, even when I was a teenager, that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I just didn't know what. I didn't have like a set, I want this type of business. I just wanted to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And the usual sort of actions I would take would be anything, you know, anything entrepreneurship, from selling stuff in school to trying to sell on eBay, DVDs shipped in from China, to trying to do a club, you know, under 18s club night, and a lot of these failed, as you can imagine, but to actually having that same corner shop my dad owned, which was interesting because I started that just when I came across trading.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And the shop was a complete disaster. Like it was something I did to probably just try and fill those shoes.
So what was it? Same corner shop, or you mean you bought the same premise?
Same corner shop.
Okay.
Yeah, the exact same.
It was a corner shop still at that point.
It was a corner shop still at that point. It had been through, really tough times. After my dad had built it up, when he got it, it was very derelict, very run down. He had actually built it up, through getting around the community and just providing, I guess, just the whatever needed to be provided in that community. Unfortunately, after he passed away, people who took it over were like selling drugs out of there.
Oh, really?
So it really run down. Yeah, reputation was really run down. It got raided a bunch of times. And I tried to come in, and it was kind of really weird because when I came in, it was the same sort of thing where it was really run down, and I had to try and build it back up. And I called it George and Sons because, as you can imagine, he was a Pakistani guy. He was from Pakistan, and people used to call him George. So I called it George and Sons, and I was trying to complete this legacy. I was trying to just complete this legacy, and it was the craziest part about the story is that that's where he passed away. My dad was actually he was actually murdered, and he was murdered at the shop. So it was a really weird time for me being there because though I was trying to push myself in entrepreneurship, I was trying to fill these shoes. Equally at the same time, I put my mum, and we literally spoke about this the other day actually, kind of put her through trauma because it was bringing all these memories back. And then putting myself through some sort of trauma because it's bringing all these memories back, or these subconscious thoughts back. And it didn't work out in the end, but it taught me a lot about business because my assumption was always that, you get into business, you're your own boss. You set your own hours and you have freedom and and I was literally looking at a second shop when I just started the first shop thinking this is going to be easy. I'll get my first shop, then get my second, and I'll have an empire of shops. And then the reality sits in. Like being your own boss means you do all the hours.
Literally. It's
you
like
have
when
to do the stock, everything.
Yeah. People say, what you think is the case of, leaving a 9 to 5 so I can have the freedom is far from the truth because all your time now is devoted to a business and you scaling it. And when you realize that it can be more than what it is right now, you're always going to put in that time and effort right there. But I want to break something down. You just said that you said you've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I'd ask you why. What is it about entrepreneur life at the time that was interesting to you?
I think it was the chance of doing more, right? I never wanted to just live a 9 to 5. And I know a lot of people say that, right? And it can sound like anti 9 to 5 or like a 9 to 5 is wrong. It's not wrong. It's just I wanted to do more. I wanted to be able to live a better life, to live a bit more of a freer life, to be able to do things on my own terms and to not be able to ask about, if I can go on holiday or to go to the bathroom, for a lunch break or whatever it may be. I want to be able to live on my own terms. I want to be able to provide that freedom to my family and not only say my kids or my wife, but also to my mom and my siblings and even my wife's family, for example. The only way to do that isn't going to happen through a job. Even if I get a 6-figure salary job, I'm not going to be able to do that. Now, another thing that I had to learn there was the reality of that sort of goal is actually way bigger than you would assume, right? Like to be able to try and look after that many people is a lot higher than just say a few million, let's say.
Yeah, for sure.
But that was the reason, because I wanted to actually have that level of freedom. I still didn't understand at the time what that actually takes though. The level of income you would have to create or the level of business or entrepreneurship that you'd have to get to. Not just a very simple or very naive idea that I used to have.
Yeah. So what was the first, not proper, but what was the first business you started where you were like, okay, this is actually the first thing I'm going all in on now?
It was the corner shop. Yeah.
It was the corner shop.
At a level like that, yeah, the corner shop. Before that, it was like I said, e-commerce, and just selling sweets in school. That they're not proper things. They're just little side hustles or just little things to make you feel good.
But especially selling sweets in school. Yeah,
exactly. But they're good starting points. Like they're the little signs of entrepreneurship in a way. But like they're just little fun things, right? But the shop was like the big thing, right? That was the big thing. Before that, I was going to do a restaurant. Right, I was going to try and franchise a restaurant. And again, it was the same thing though. I'm glad I didn't, because that probably would have been a huge mistake. For the same exact reason of that, I had this false idea of business. So in one sense, the shop was obviously a huge failure and disaster. But it was the biggest lesson I could learn, because now I learned the reality of business, which I then took into trading and took into any other business venture that may have come up. I now had a much more aware mindset of, okay, this is what it's actually going to take. So really think about not only the positive side, but what are the negative sides, or at least the drawbacks that are there, so that you are aware when going into it. You're not like taken by surprise and you're not being naive. And that's been very helpful. Like the failure, if you will, was very helpful to then the future projects I did, like the pod. Like with the podcast, for example, I wanted to start the podcast back then when I came across trading. So that was about 8 years ago. And I didn't, because I just assumed you needed something like this. Your own studio and like have to have this huge set, and it costs a lot of money, which people probably don't realize.
And arguably back then as well, 8 years ago, podcasts aren't what they are, or they weren't what they are now.
Exactly, yeah.
So the only podcasts you could look at back then, probably Joe Rogan, or the big ones where they have the big sets, not like this, but I mean like theirs. So you don't have an idea. You can't see what a lower budget podcast looks like. So,
That's it.
I
Yeah.
agree with you,
That was exactly what happened. I was watching Joe Rogan, and I was like, just for watching him, I was like, oh, this is something I love to do. I just have conversations with people. I didn't know how to go about it. I tried to research a bit, but again, my assumption was, like you said, like, huge studio. So I was like, okay. The funny thing is, though, if I'd just done a little tiny bit more research and gone back to Joe Rogan episode 1, 2, 3, or 4, or even like the first 10, it's like on Zoom, with like some snow, like a graphic on there or animation on there, right? And it's just like two guys sat next to each other on this laptop or computer or webcam, and it just shows you that you just start. And that's the biggest thing with anything. I think that literally the secret to success, if you will, is just starting. Just start and then just stay consistent with starting and keep at that one thing. Because I can't tell you the amount of people, not only from trading or from my family or friends, who tell me all the time, I want to do this thing. And they might even start it. Like most don't. They just keep saying, right? And this is the majority of people, unfortunately. And then they will start. Some will start. But then they will only start for a month, 2, 3 months. And then they don't see the traction or the results they want to see yet. Then they stop. And then they just repeat that cycle over and over. And that's a dangerous mindset or place to be in, because like I said, the secret to success, in my opinion, is literally just take action, but consistently take action. And the way to go about that, though, is to do something you enjoy. So the podcast, I enjoy it. Trading, I enjoy it. So that's why they're probably the only two things that I've actually done long term, and you don't worry about the results then. You're not looking at the results, especially when there aren't any results. Like the podcast, for example, like when you started, no doubt, it's probably the same thing. Like couple hundred views or 1,000 views, and that's just consistently happening. But you're doing good episodes. You feel really good about an episode, but it does the same thing. But then it's the momentum, right? And once that momentum builds up, it's like the snowball at the top of the hill. It starts to roll and get bigger and bigger, and that momentum continues. And look where you are today. Look where I am today. And it's just a testament to just consistent action.
Your podcast is very, very good, Riz. Like, you're a great, great podcast host. I've seen a few of your episodes, and now especially I'm trying to cut out music out of my life and listen to more podcasts and car journeys, plane journeys, whatever the case is, right? But one of the main things that I take away from your podcast is that you yourself seem very extroverted, and you're very outgoing. You can make the podcast host, the guest, feel like they're at home. So just that little element there, have you always been an extrovert, or were you the quieter person in school growing up? What was it like for you? So today's sponsor is here to help you revolutionize your trading game. Alpha Capital Group are a UK-based prop firm, a team of elite financial professionals empowering traders with the tools and resources needed to achieve vast amounts of success. They offer 0% commission, no time limits, one-to-one mentoring sessions to develop and enhance your skills, and so much more. Guys, I know you're looking to level up your trading game, so sign up to Alpha Capital Group using the link in the description or the code on the screen right now for a discount.
It's a very good question, actually, because we laugh about this all the time, me and my friends, because the podcast has gotten to a point now where people are coming up to me, and it's an amazing thing, but I'm actually super introverted. Like, I don't know how to describe it. If someone knows me, I'm very extroverted. I'm very like bubbly, laughing loud, and all sorts of crazy jokes and all sorts. But if you don't know me, or I don't know a person, I'm the last person to go up to a stranger and talk to them. I'm the last person to sort of ask for directions. I'd rather just pull out my phone or like just avoid interaction.
I'm smiling because I'm exactly the same. Literally exactly the same.
It must be a thing with like podcasters. I don't know. Like, we're great for doing the job.
But off camera,
exactly,
we're not chatting to you.
Exactly. But again, it's not like because we don't want to. It's just like, it's just really awkward. I was in New York in December, and I went into a lift with my family, and this guy was like, "Words of Rizdom, how's it going?" And I was like, and literally I just go all quiet because I'm like, I don't know what to say. And they're asking me questions, and that's absolutely fine. And I'm answering the questions, but I'm answering it with like way less energy than I probably would if it was like a friend or something. But no, it's great to hear, because sometimes when it comes to the podcast, sometimes I have people on who may not been on camera before ever, and they're very, very nervous. And I try my best to like just say, look, we're just talking about trading. Like, we're just talking about things you do every single day. Like, I know these lights can be quite bright and there's cameras there, but just ignore them. We're just having a conversation, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Like, they're still a bit nervous, which I understand, because if they've never done it before, then it can be a bit daunting. I think we probably both forget that, we actually have a very large audience. While to us it might not feel it because we've kind of grown with it. To someone who's never done anything before, they come onto a platform that's got 100,000 plus people that watch it.
They're just like, oh my God, like I've got to be prepared for this. The spotlight's on me. And we're just sitting there like, as you said, we've grown with it. So we still have the same feeling from when we started. It hasn't really changed. You said there earlier that you discovered trading at the same point as where you started the shop, right? So what made you come across trading? How did you come across it? And what was your thoughts about it from the get-go?
Definitely. So like with trading, it was very interesting because before I used to do all sorts of jobs. Like I did go to university. So I just did jobs like sales jobs. Sales jobs was the main sort of jobs that were helpful in terms of making income without a degree.
You seem like the type of guy that definitely worked at Vodafone.
I didn't work at Vodafone. No, I did. I did telesales though. I worked at Talk.
Okay,
similar, not far. Yeah, not far. Which is a whole different story. That place was a wild place. Yeah. Sales jobs are incredible in terms of like the skill sets you learn, but they're extremely ruthless. But I've always recommended to people who don't go to university, but they want to get into a job that will teach them skills, but also make good money from. Yeah. Sales is the only one.
Exactly the same thing I recommend as well. I always say to people, get yourself in a sales retail job, and that will build up your skill set. But yeah, sorry, continue.
No, but like it's so true though, but you have to be ready for the ruthless environment. That's the thing. So it's similar to entrepreneurship though. Sales is like a test, I believe, for entrepreneurship, because if you can't handle a sales environment, you're never going to handle what it's going to take to be an entrepreneur or a successful person like that. But yeah, in terms of finding trading, so I used to work in a taxi office, like doing booking the calls. It's called D&G Cars in Nottingham. And I'd sit there and I'd do that. But one of the guys who worked there with me at the time, because I was like 18 at the time, or 17, 18 at the time. Years later, I bumped into him and his lifestyle had increased, right? He suddenly had a nice car, he was going on holiday, he had like this apartment where he just had like for the boys, just games and all sorts. So I just asked him, and I knew him, he's a very humble guy, still to this day, to this day I bump into him all the time. And I might be hosting a trading meetup or be with like a trading guest. And whenever I see him, I say like, oh, that's the guy who got me into trading. And he runs off.
Oh, is it?
He doesn't like it. Yeah, he runs off because he doesn't like it. And I've asked him to come on the pod, but he's like, no.
Okay, so you haven't had him on the podcast?
I've not had him on the pod.
That would be such a sick podcast,
I know. But like I said, he's so humble and just so like private and just does his thing, right? Yeah. And that's why I respect him so much, because I would never ask someone usually like, what do you do? But because I worked with him and I knew him, he was a good friend of mine. I was like, I have to ask you, like, what do you do? Like, when we started, I was here. We were both here. And now you're there.
Now you're all the way up.
I'm still like just here.
Yeah.
And he said, I trade Forex. And at the time, it was gibberish to me. I'd never heard of trading. I didn't even know that was a thing. So I said, what is that? And he goes, I trade the euro versus the dollar. I trade Japanese yen versus this. And gold, I trade gold. And I was just like, when I heard that, it sparked in my head, like, this is what I want to do. I don't know why. It was just like, this is what I want to do. This sounds like something I would love to do.
As he was explaining it, did you understand it?
No. Okay. I understood the concept of it, in terms of like, okay, you do something with the euro in the end, but it was just literally when he was describing it in that way, it was kind of like just, that was the moment of like, this is it. This is the thing that I'm going to learn and I'm going to master. And it just sounds like something I would love, because I'm into numbers anyway. And trading I'd never heard of, but that was the thing. So then he gave me, at this point, you can imagine all of his friends were asking him, what do you do, man? Like, I want to get involved. So he sent me to this free website to like just get general information. It's called babypips.com. It's like the OG website, if you will, of the trading realm. And then, so I went there, but it's very terminology dense, like so heavy on terminology. So went there. Tried to go through that. Then I went back to him and said, where did you go? And he sent me to a course, and the course he did. So I went to that course, and that was the start of my journey. And literally the course, the funny thing is that course that I did was probably a month into the shop.
Okay, so a month into the shop then.
Yeah.
So doing this course then, how was that like for you? Successful or?
Well, it's an interesting story, because the guys who ran that course are now, they're still around, which is the sad bit, but they have turned out to be not very good guys. At the time, you can imagine, I looked up to them and they were the first course I ever came across. So I never really put them down in that sense, because at the end of the day, I knew nothing anyway. So I did learn something, but it wasn't for the price of it. At the time, it makes sense because it wasn't, this was 2016. So there wasn't really as much, about trading online. Like it was probably them and one other people. So they could charge what they wanted. So that's fair. Okay. But in terms of if you were to compare it now or just compare the price to the knowledge, it didn't really sync up. But again, I can't speak negatively at that time because it was the only thing I knew.
Yeah, you didn't have much experience in it otherwise.
Exactly. But yeah, over the years, I ended up working for those guys later. And yeah, they just turned out to be, just faking it. Being those typical people that people are worried about on social media, of just faking, everything on the social media side, but behind the scenes, they're just not doing it.
Is this the same group you was telling me about on WhatsApp?
Exactly. Oh, depends. There's a couple of groups we were talking about. Yeah. This one was Amin Nat, so it's called Astro Effects at the time. They're gone now, which is good, but Amin Nat unfortunately is still out and about doing his thing. But yeah, like I went there, like I said, it was a good experience to begin with because I didn't know anything, so it felt like a good experience. But there wasn't no aftercare. So for the price I paid, a couple £1,000, being a teen, early 20s at the time, that's a lot of money. But there was no aftercare or anything. It was literally you go there, you do your thing, and then if you want to ask questions and stuff, non-existent. And yeah, so that was my experience getting into it. And then from there, it was kind of, this is the interesting thing. So like I did the course, but then the first year or two, I didn't really put as much effort in as you meant to. I wasn't being consistent.
Yeah.
I kind of just thought, okay. And I said to myself the wrong mindset as well of like, I'm willing to do this for long term. That's what I said. And you'd probably think like, why'd you say wrong mindset? Because long term in my head was a year.
Oh,
right?
okay.
So I was like, if I dedicate a year to this, right,
you'll be rich.
Yeah, exactly. That's a long time.
Yeah.
But the reality I found from the podcast, and that's the beauty of the podcast as well, it's like a collection of everyone's journey. And the average seems to be, and not saying that this is the amount of time to be rich, right? But the average to start seeing results, to begin to start seeing results, seems to be roughly around 3 years. Now that might speed up now because of the amount of information out there, etc. But 3 years, right? That's not even a long time in comparison. That's about a uni degree.
What results are we talking about though? Are we talking about trading success, or are we talking about results in terms of lifestyle?
So results in the trading success,
Okay.
right? So like starting to see consistency, starting to make money consistently. So rather than just losing or kind of being break even, so you're not really making anything or losing anything. So starting to see consistency, that seems to be, and that was what it was for me, 3.5 years. And I lost a lot of money in trading that I didn't need to because I just threw money at trading. Because it's a very delicate line with trading, right? It's a profession. It's a real thing. It is something you can make money from. Because one of the biggest questions I get is trading real? Like even from people who've been doing it for a year or two, like they'll ask, is it real? Is this something that you can actually make money from, or is everyone lying? That's a valid question. And it's unfortunate because there are people lying.
Yeah.
But it's a valid question to ask because the beauty I had was that I had that friend. So I had an example of someone who had done it. So most people don't have that. Most people just kind of find it online and then they're by themselves trying to learn, and therefore they don't have any examples. So then it's easy to question it. But it is real. But it takes that time, and it takes, more importantly, the action, consistent action to do it. So my first year, probably year and a half, I didn't really put any actions in. I was just there pretending I was trading, like just like, oh, I'll buy here, I'll sell here.
Yeah.
When in reality, I had to take time to really learn the details. Basically go through a degree on my own though, right? Like to put in the work as if I was doing a degree to learn that. And like I said, the fine line, just to finish that off, is it can be a gambling, right? If you don't know what you're doing, and that year and a half, I was just gambling because I didn't know what I was doing. I was just buying or selling randomly with no knowledge, with no risk management, with no plan. And that's gambling, right? However, if you put your knowledge together and you put the actions in, you have a system, you have an edge. Now you're not gambling because you're using an actual edge based on data that you've taken from the market to trade. So there is a distinction there because a lot of people do talk about that as well. Like, is trading gambling or not? And the reality is, if you have no knowledge and you don't know what you're doing, of course that is gambling. But it's like a poker player, right? A poker player who, if I went to play poker, I have no idea how to play poker. So I would be gambling, right? Versus the professional poker player who sits at the table, has a system, has an edge, understands what he's trying to do. He's not a gambler, right? He's a professional. That's why he plays on the league. He's on TV playing those games. So there is that difference. And I think a lot of people don't understand that.
So I'm going to ask you this question here. I was going to bring it up later, but we're on the topic of it, about the gambling and, trading. Are you open to have the conversation about trading? Obviously, you're Muslim, right?
Yeah.
So are we open to have the conversation about trading being halal or haram sort of thing?
Of course, yeah.
And
so for me, like, I'm not very knowledgeable in terms of like the Islamic side of things, like the rulings, but I'm happy to try and give my perspective anyway.
But the reason why I'm asking is because we were literally, me and a couple of friends, we were out in Medina literally last week, and we were having this conversation about trading and stuff, about if it's haram or halal. One of the brothers here, my cousin, he's also does trading as well. He was saying it's halal. One of the other boys was saying no, but like you don't know, no one can say whether it's going up or down, so it's gambling. Mm-hmm. And then the question, I know this sounds like a very stupid question, but it was like, if a professional poker player knows what he's doing and he's no longer classed as gambling because he's analyzing everything, all that sort of stuff, is that now deemed as not gambling? And therefore, I know this is going to sound stupid, I don't agree with it at all, but he was saying, is that now deemed as halal? Because you're not gambling at that point if you're professional. So same aspect to trading, though in the beginning it can seem as gambling, but as you become a professional, you can, put your knowledge in it, your analysis and all that sort of stuff. But at the end of the day, even with all of that, what do you believe? Still, is it halal?
So me personally, I haven't tried to research it. I'm not someone who, I see why people do. Like some people are very strong with their beliefs and they want to know. They need to have a yes or no answer from someone else to tell them, should they do that or not? And I respect that a lot. And I definitely think that it should be something that you don't take lightly in terms of trading, because it is so easy to lose a lot of money in trading, right? And a lot of people do lose a lot of money in trading. But a lot of the time, why are they losing that money? It's normally because they're throwing money at something that they don't actually understand yet. And I don't want to be that guy who's like, oh, here's a loophole. Because there's no such thing as like loopholes or stuff. It's either a yes or no, right? And trading wise, if you learn the knowledge and you have an edge, you can be profitable. What deems that profitability though? Because anyone could build an edge, right? Anyone could, learn strategies and learn about the markets, have their risk management so they know what they're risking per trade, etc., right? All the technical aspect of trading. They could learn all of that, but still not make money. Why? Because of their discipline. Right? Because of their actions as a human being. So it really does come down to the individual. Now, there is, interestingly, I had someone on the podcast who brought their imam on to talk about this whole halal, haram.
They brought their imam on?
Yeah, they brought him on the pod. And what that person said was like, trading with a personal account. And again, they basically said it's a loophole. But trading with your personal account is not halal because you don't own the contract.
This is Zaki.
Yes, exactly.
I saw the clip on Instagram. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So, yeah, again, he said that you don't own the contracts. There are swap fees, which is essentially what people class as interest, and you're using leverage. So then that personal trading is haram. But there are things now called prop firms, which is all demo and simulated, so it's not real money. And therefore he said it's a loophole because it's not real money. There is no money on the line. So yeah, you may pay a fee to do these challenges, and there's that money, but that's just a small fee. But then in terms of withdrawals and how you make profits, it's all based on simulated. And therefore, that's a loophole, he was essentially saying. Now, I personally don't agree with trying to find a loophole. I don't think that you need to. Like, you just base it off your beliefs, right? So the way I see it is, we're in a whole different age now, right? And like, my understanding in terms of interest is that, let's say we go back to 2,000 years ago, 1,500 years ago, when these rulings were made, people who were loaning money at the time were loan sharks, right? So rather than me going to what is now a bank or a broker now for trading, that didn't exist, right? This sort of trading didn't exist. It was more commerce that was available. So I'd trade maybe gold for something that I wanted to buy off you, or I would trade a camel for something that you own, maybe one of your houses or whatever it may be, right?
Yeah.
So it's a whole different world, right? But my understanding is that obviously interest was made haram because of the aggressiveness of loan sharks. So like, let's say I take £1,000 off you, right? But instead of you saying, okay, I'm going to pay £1,000 back, I'm saying, no, I want 100% back.
Yeah, so you want 2 bags back.
Exactly.
$2,000, yeah.
Right? And therefore, that's taking advantage of the situation. And I understand that. I don't agree with that too. But essentially, like how a mortgage works, or like with these swap fees, for example, that are interest in the trading realm, if I want to take £1,000 off you, but I say to you, before you take it though, I say, okay, take this £1,000, but for me lending it you, I need to make some money on that money. So I'm going to charge you 2% on that, or even 5%, let's say. Quite a fair amount, 5%. So when you give me back, you're going to give me that and 5%. It's agreed upon. You're happy with it, I'm happy with it. That's it.
Signed before money's even taken out.
Exactly. So in my eyes, that is a completely legitimate business deal. It's not, no one's being taken advantage of. That person didn't have £1,000 before. Now you have £1,000. But for doing so, I just want to make some money on that, because why should I give you that money for free?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And when people talk about like swap free accounts, so it's an interest free accounts to make it Sharia compliant, or Islamic mortgages, it's all a trick anyway, because all you do is they just don't take interest payments per month, and they just have a balloon payment at the end.
Exactly, yeah.
So it's the exact same thing. So it's just it just has a title on it.
Yeah, I've seen it in halal car finance companies. What they do is they just put the interest in the cash price of the car.
Yeah.
So rather than saying, the cash price of the car is £60,000, and by the time in the end you're going to pay £10,000 in interest, they just say, okay, cool, the car is now £70,000, 0% interest, but it's in that 70 grand.
Exactly.
It's a 10 grand interest in that cash price, which is the loophole they try and find to say, we are now halal, sort of thing.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think what I would say to people, I'm not going to sit here and say everyone should be a trader because of that explanation we just did. Everyone go be a trader because it's fine. No, like everyone just make your own decision. Just don't look for anyone else. Just say, okay, what am I happy with? Or what are my intentions in doing this in the first place? Is there something I'm happy to do in the first place? Okay, but I don't have clarity on if this is permissible or not. What's the best thing to do? Try and find an imam that you can explain it to, right? Someone that you trust, again, not just some random person, someone that you trust their opinion of, and you're happy to take their opinion on board. Don't be annoyed if they say no, and don't be, elated if they say yes. You need to be balanced as an individual. And then take that information. Now, the issue I find is that a lot of imams obviously won't understand what trading is.
Yeah.
Right? And you might not be good at explaining what trading is either. So just make sure you do that as well. Make sure you do your due diligence to find someone who will understand it, and make sure you do your due diligence to be able to explain it properly. And then just go with whatever answer that person gives you, and you have peace of mind, right? So if they say yes, fantastic. If you want to go do it. If they say no, accept it. Because if you wanted an answer and you get annoyed that they said no, why did you go in the first place?
Why did you go? Yeah.
But that's what I would say to people. Like, just do your own research. Do what you're happy with. Because at the end of the day, you have to live with your own actions, right?
Yeah.
So like me, like people might be annoyed that I think it's fine or I've been doing it. That's fine. I don't care if people get annoyed because I have to live with my actions. I know what I've had to do. I know the amount of money I had to lose gambling, right? Doing something that is haram, right? Because it was gambling, because I didn't have any strategy. I had to lose that money. But I had to learn very quick. And I went through there's a classic story that I've told before on like trading podcasts, that I got to a point, and this is the bit where I had to change. I got to a point where I gambled the rent money. And at this point I was married and I had a kid, and I gambled my rent money. And because I put it into account, I thought this trade is guaranteed. And that's the wrong mindset to have. That's a gambling mindset, right? This trade is guaranteed to happen. And bear in mind, I still didn't have a strategy at this point, right? So I'm guaranteeing it on what?
So this is early doors then?
Well, this was now about 4.5 years ago. So this was when I started to see the changes. Why? Because of this moment, right? Because of that low moment, if you will.
Yeah.
Because at this point, I've lost about 30,000 pounds into trading, spent about 10,000 on different courses. And again, it sounds like a lot, right? And it is a lot, but I didn't need to do any of that, right? Especially nowadays. And even then though, I didn't need to do that. I was just throwing money at it for no reason, because I was being impulsive, because I was not taking action. As we said, I was just thinking, I just throw money at it, I make money. That's not how it works, right? That's not, nothing works that way. But yeah, I did that moment. And then obviously that's a very humbling moment, right? Because I had to go to my wife and say, babe, I've lost the rent money, and that's, as a man and just as someone who was always telling my wife and telling everyone, like, I want to do something great, I want to build great things, I want to make change in the world. Suddenly I'm doing something as crazy as gambling the rent money. Then I had to tell my mum as well, of course. I'm like, my mum, and they're both telling me, look, you need to make a decision, right? Of either because you can't do that again. That's something that is a gambling addict, if you will. That's the sort of mistake they would make. And I had to say that to myself as well. Like, you are just gambling.
At that point, yeah.
So it's like an ultimatum. It's like either you change and do what you need to do to be an actual trader, or you quit, right? And I'm not someone who likes to quit, but I had to accept the fact that, look, if you're not going to change,
then you got to stop.
Yeah. So I made those changes from that moment. And it wasn't easy. There was a large portion of time where I wasn't putting money in the markets, rightfully so, because I wasn't ready to. But that's not easy to do either, because you want to, right? Yeah. But you have to control yourself. You have to do the right thing. So I spent time learning, right? Learning about the markets, learning the different technical aspects, right? Learning a strategy, learning about the trade management. Whilst I was doing this though, I was saving.
So was you doing all of this with a demo account, demo money?
Afterwards, yeah. So whilst I was learning, on demo. And this is what I was going to say. So it's never been easier to be a trader. And I would say one of the easiest things you can do to make 10K a month, for example, is be a trader. Now, don't get me wrong. People hear that, they get really annoyed. They're like, easy, trading. They don't go match up. And I get that. What I mean by that is that, if you want to go into e-commerce, for example, or you want to start a podcast, for example, or you want to, what else is there? I don't know, do copywriting, or you want to do a social media agency. All these different aspects,
things. Many different fields.
Exactly. They take money, they take clients, they take having staffs a lot of the time, they take equipment, etc. Trading doesn't require any of that.
Apart from a laptop.
Exactly. Yeah. A laptop, or even just a phone, right? And Wi-Fi. That's all it needs, right? And there will be a little bit of capital injection at some point, but to begin with and to build the skill set, you need absolutely nothing. In today's day and age, when I started that, I couldn't say that. Now you have all the information you could possibly need on YouTube, right? For free. So all the different strategies, every different strategy under the sun in detail on YouTube for free. You have prop firms now as well. So that's another big thing that people used to say, is that capital. You need tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands to make money from trading. But now you have these evaluation firms. And evaluation firms, to really keep it brief, is once you have a skill set, and that's a very important point, once you've gone through the learning using demo accounts, so where you basically can trade the actual markets with no money, right? As if it's live, but without using any money, right? So you can get a demo account of, say, 50K, 100K, no money, right? But you can practice, you can build your skill set, build your confidence. And there is a huge difference between obviously the simulated and real money, of course, but that comes later anyway, when you're ready, That's the main bit, when you're ready. Most people, like I said, like I did, throw money at it. But the evaluation firms, once you have that skill set, you pay a small fee, and depending on the account size. So on average, 100K account size is about £500. They give or take. And then you take the challenge, as in you show your skill set, right? So you have normally a 2-phase. So phase 1, you might have to make X percentage now it's unlimited days as well. It's gotten even easier. It used to be limited days. So it's unlimited days. And then phase 2, same thing. And then you get a funded account, which then basically means that whatever profits you make on that, you will get a profit split and you can make that capital. Yeah. And you get a refund on the fee that you paid on the £500.
Oh, is it? You get a refund on that as well? Okay, yeah.
So don't get me wrong. Again, same principle. People can easily throw money at that model.
Yeah.
Right? But this is where it comes down to the individual. You control yourself, right? You learn the skill set for free. You go through this process and then you go and take one of these challenges. You can literally get to 10K a month in a very short space of time, in a very easy manner, meaning you haven't had to go put loads of capital in. You haven't had to hire anyone. You haven't had to find staff. You haven't had to find clients to try and service and trying to make that 10K a month. And that's why trading is an amazing thing. But should everyone be a trader? No.
Okay, so I'm going to ask this off the back of that then. As you said there, being a trader is one of the easiest ways to make 10K a month. Now, do you think to the general public, that's why it may be deemed as a get-rich-quick scheme from the way it's marketed as that easy way to make money?
Definitely. No, definitely. I think, like, even for me, I would say easiest way to make 10K a month, but I won't put a time scale on that. Like I said, on average from the podcast, 3 years, 3.5 years. Can that be shortened? Yes. Are there people who may have done it maybe in a year? 100%. But you have to look at the average, not the enigmas, like the few people the LeBron James or the Ronaldos. You can't look at them and say that's what everyone does, right?
Yeah.
You have to look at the average. What does the average person do? Right? What does the average successful trader look like? And what sort of time frame are they working with? And so definitely, like, there's, unfortunately, when I started, like I said, trading wasn't really online as much. Now you've got all these influencers getting into trading, apparently, right? You got these, whether they're YouTubers or whether they're, car enthusiasts, whether they're boxers now, like all these people are suddenly trading, right? Or they got a friend who's trading for them and they're making money and they're promoting it to everyone. Like, I'm going to help you make, I've just made 10K. I'm going to help you get rich today. Or I'm going to help you make thousands today. You just sign up to my group, right? And it's all free. That's the promotion. But it's a joke. It's an absolute joke because they're putting a false expectation into people. They're essentially tricking people, right?
They're scamming their own audience.
Exactly.
Which is what, like, I can't fathom how people do that. You've built up this whole audience after years or whatever the case is. Now, X person's come along, said, let's do this. I'll pay you X amount to promote it. And it's like, yeah, cool, I'll take that. Let me just scam my audience who I've built. Like, that's crazy, bro. That's crazy to us.
I think for them, it's like, they can just easy money, right?
Yeah.
And they think that it's never going to catch up to them. But and the reality is, because of the fact that it's everyday people, it's not someone who's trying to get into trading. They've got into trading because of this style of advertisement. It will catch up to them. Like, it's going, and if it doesn't, I'll be shocked, right? And I'll be very disappointed in the system because at the end of the day, these are everyday people who just want to make money, of course, but they're thinking this is the way because of this, as you say, like someone who's high up or what someone looks up to, right? Put on a pedestal because of their status in society, whether they're, like I said, a boxer or a YouTuber or, a famous car enthusiast, whatever it may be. People then look at them and say, they must know what they're talking about. They would never do this.
They're doing these videos in front of their, big houses.
And the crazy thing is, a lot of people then, a lot of these influencers, right? Before they were doing this, they didn't really show too much. Suddenly now they're doing this trading thing. Now their lifestyle increases as well. Even though they already may have been famous or apparently successful, but now suddenly their success has become, shown so much more because that is the lifestyle marketing. But the real way how they're making the money though, or how they're doing this, even the people so-called trading, they're not even trading, right? They literally just have broker deals, right? So if you take one of these setups, we went through actually one recently, we looked through like, okay, how's this set up? And essentially, okay, it's the classic, okay, I made 10K today. Join my, you can do this for free as well. Join my Telegram group, right? Okay, join the Telegram group. What does the Telegram group say? Okay, if you're 18 plus and you have £300, you're eligible for this free thing. Deposit the £300 in this broker. So, and then after you've done that, you send them a screenshot to confirm so they know you're not lying and you've done the £300 deposit. Once you've done that though, now they say, okay, so-and-so person is going to get onto a call with you. The influencer, right? The trader.
Yeah.
So now everyone feels like, oh my God.
Yeah, some sort of connection, personal connection. Yeah. Okay.
And they're going to walk you through how to place your first trade. That's the biggest trick of all, because now they're forcing you to take a trade. And usually with brokers, it's one lot, right? So one contract side, one lot is a minimum trade that the trader, the so-called trader needs and the influencers need for them to unlock their commission with the broker that they're going to get for bringing this client. So they force you to take this trade.
So
right?
just explain that because I like, being honest, I don't quite understand what you mean there by one lot and all that sort of stuff. So if you had to,
so when you trade, you don't trade, let's say like in capital, right?
Yeah.
It's in contract sizes. So one lot is a contract size, right? So one standard lot, as they say, and that has a particular value. So to a broker, that value then is obviously what they deem high enough to give the referral person their commission.
Okay.
So essentially when they get you on this call, they force you to take that size trade. They say, we're going to show you how to place your first trade.
Yeah.
So they force you to place that trade. Now they've got the commission. Now they don't care what happens to you. Now they don't care if you win or lose, right? And 90%, 99% of the time, everyone's losing their money.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so sad. Because someone might lose £300 and, okay, maybe to someone like myself in my position now, £300 may not seem like a lot. But you have to remember, who are the people going for these things?
Yeah, it's going to be the younger audience.
Exactly. The younger audience and people who are struggling, because that's why they're going down this route in the first place.
Yeah.
And it's extremely sad because at the end of the day, they'll join this Telegram group and they'll think they're talking to whichever influencer it may be, right? But then in reality, it's just one of their team, right? Or some random person who's replying back to them. And it's just, but the amount of money that is made through these affiliates, right? These affiliate deals is insane, right? And that's where the watches come from. That's where these cars come from. That's where these properties come from. That's where this lifestyle comes from.
It's not because they're making money from the trading itself. Exactly. It's because they're making the marketers. Exactly. They're making money from the market and then the commission. But if you had to break it down in terms of how much they could be making potentially from that, what would you say?
It does range because it all depends on like the brokerage and what they're offering, right? But on average, you're talking at least a few $100s per person, right? Sometimes they even give maybe 100% of the first deposit, which would normally be similar. Because most people won't just deposit once. They'll probably deposit 2 or 3 times. Because the first time might have been a mistake, right? Yeah. Or something bad. Or the trader might even say, we've had a few losses. It's fine. It will bounce back. So they put more money in, right? So it could be as high as that, like just whatever the first deposit is. But let's say on average, $500, right? But then you also get commissions on each trade that they place and the swap fees and all these other elements. But let's say if you got 20,000 people in your Telegram group or people who've joined, you made $500 per one. That's a few million at the least, literally, right?
Yeah.
And this is a continuous cycle. And then what they do, they recruit more influencers, right? Do car giveaways, right? How do you think this all afforded? It's just literally through this huge scheme. And it's like I said, it's really sad because it really puts, like the trading industry already had a bad name anyway, just because of the people who were traders or at least trying to promote themselves as traders selling courses. Now it's at a whole different level because now they're hiring, like I said, and paying. So for example, one boxer in Dubai, 20K a month he was getting paid to begin with. Now it's even more, right? And people here are getting paid obscene amounts. There's one in particular here who, at the time, I think their career was literally like sort of flattening off or like declining.
What, boxer or just like influencer?
A car influencer here.
Okay, yeah.
Right? Their career was declining. They were having struggles. And then when they suddenly done this deal, all-time highs, all the cars, everything's flying off, right? And it's crazy. It's crazy. And it's like I said, it's so sad to see because as you said, it's like scamming your audience essentially. It's like you've built this audience who trust you, who like you, like your personality. It's like if I did it. Imagine if I did it, right? I've got this huge audience now because of the podcast who trust my word and trust my ability to give them a good thing and promote a good thing for them. And I turn around and say, you want this? Like, I'll help you make money. Join the signals. And I just start making all this money from this brokerage affiliate deal and they're all losing, right? How sad would that be, right? How would that make you feel? And that's why I always said intention is everything, right? Intention, how you do something is so important. And it doesn't matter how much money you make and how it may not impact you directly. But at the end of the day, there's people out there who are suffering because of what you're doing and how you're falsely promoting trading and what it can do.
I've heard from first-hand perspective. I'm gonna use fake names here because I don't want to get anyone in trouble. But John told me that Dave, the trader, pays Michael, the influencer, 15 grand a post per Instagram post, but off the back of that, they're making about 50. Which is, when he said that to me, I was like, nah, this is crazy. Because that person, I can't even go too much detail without baiting it out, but it was just like, that's where all the money's coming from now and everything. And I was just like, that's mad. But even as you said, people before, Do you know what? It's a case of your moralities and how you hold yourself accountable for it. Because if someone came to me, that same trader, and said, Raheem, look, I'll give you 10 grand for a post. Now, if I was in not even a low position, but if I thought, it's a quick way to make some money, but don't care about what anyone thinks, if I'm a scammer or whatnot, let me just take it. And I don't care about my own morals, then I'll do that all day long. But if I was like, nah, like how I'm now, I would never be able to do that. I can't hold myself accountable for people getting scammed, then I would never do that. But off the back of that, this whole conversation, how do you tell? You've spoken to many, many traders, on your podcast, and I'm sure you would have spoken to more traders off camera as well. How can you tell who's legit and who's not? What's the telltale signs to someone who doesn't trade, someone not in the industry who's looking to go into it? How do you tell who's legit and who's not? Like, what's the main signs?
The main signs is like, are they showing the reality of trading? So they might be able to say to you, hey, I make this much money a month, let's say, or I make this much this year. And it might sound like a lot, and it probably is a lot. But are they also saying to you, it took me this long to get here. It was this hard to do this. These were the challenges that I faced to do this. A prime example is, a guest you've had on before, a good friend of ours, Ashraf. He's like, and I said this before we came on, he's like the top G, if you will, of our industry. Like, he is the top example of that in our industry, because someone who shows their brokerage statements every year of what they made to that point, shares the reality of what he had to go through when learning to get to that point, and doesn't just sugarcoat as if like, and he could, if he wanted to, he could literally do anything he want, like say anything he wanted and show it. Could do the lifestyle if he wanted to, but instead he focuses on business and focuses on the reality of what trading is. So that's a prime example there. But that's what I would look out. So let's say you don't know trading at all, and you're on social media and you see something, a post come up. That's what you got to look at. Like, what is the tonality of that post? Maybe that particular post is a little bit more, lifestyle-esque or a lifestyle sort of marketing, but that's fine. Okay, but look at the rest, right? Is that just the general tone? Is that just all there is? That just lifestyle and make money with me quick? I'll help you become rich. If that's the case, run a mile. Yeah, stay away from that. If, however, it's showing you, okay, that one's a lifestyle, but then the next post is talking about, okay, this is how you can learn. Here's some free information where to learn, or this is where to go learn, or here's a free resource. And as part of that, though, they're also showing that this isn't going to be a quick journey. This isn't going to be an easy journey, right? That's where you're getting a bit more reality. Don't get me wrong, there are people who probably do that who also maybe not the best, but at least they're trying to show a true picture of trading. And I think it's very important to do that, because it's the same principle with me. Like, I was trying to get into business thinking business is easy, right? And I feel like that's why podcasts have been very popular and very helpful, because you show the reality. Like, you hear a Joe Rogan podcast, or you hear anyone on a podcast, they're actually then able to go beyond a 60-second clip or
deep dive into it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's where Instagram was an issue before, and just social media as a whole was an issue before, because it's like a highlight reel, right? It's like everyone's wins. It's like the trophy cabinet, essentially. So then when you look at it, you think business is fantastic and easy, because look, this is all you see. It's just easiness and success and happiness and lifestyle and greatness. When in reality, to do that, you have to reach those. You have to gamble the rent money. You have to humble yourself. You have to go through the trauma of getting your dad's shop and failing. You have to go through these things. You have to struggle. And you have to do the 30, 40 episodes of the podcast and not get anywhere and not see any traction. You have to go through that to learn and to grow and to build the momentum, and just understand that, and I think less so than looking at trading or what to avoid, is just understand that in any industry, there is no get rich quick, there is no easy success, right? It does not exist. Even like these crypto people that people talk about and try and refer to, like, oh, that guy made loads of money in crypto. Think about it though. The people who made like the big bucks in crypto got in early, right? And people say they're lucky, but they have to take a risk. At the end of the day, they took a huge risk. Because no one believed in Bitcoin like 10 years ago, right?
No. Yeah, it was a joke.
But they did, right? And they were willing to put some decent money in there to then, and hold it most of all, right?
The long term.
Exactly.
Not the 1 year long term, the actual long term.
And to do that is hard.
Yeah.
So like, it still wasn't easy for them. I'm sure they probably made some mistakes along the way. I'm sure they probably did some investments before that one that failed, right? But again, people just don't see it. They just look at the surface. And I think it's the same with trading, right? If you just look at the surface, it looks easy. If you just look at podcasting on the surface, it looks easy, right? Just two people talking. But there's so much more that goes into it, right? And people don't understand the investment it takes to continue to build it, right? You might get successful at it. You might have 1 or 2 episodes that blow up, but how do you consistently do that? That's the hard bit.
Yeah, literally off the back of that. With the topic of people being legit or not, interested to know, have you had anyone on your podcast, trader, and you've thought to yourself, sitting there in front of them, you're a full-on waffler? You have?
I have, yeah, I've had, there was 2 key ones. One episode that still went out because I actually said it to the guy, but I didn't say it in that way. I basically said like, your story doesn't seem believable. You know, and his audience was very not happy about that. Like they were like saying like,
what, they weren't happy with you saying that?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. You can imagine obviously his loyal followers, if you will, they
Yeah.
weren't happy with it. But it just, the story was crazy, right? It was really far fetched, and he'd forgotten about a billionaire investor, and then remembered it later on. And I was like, okay, that just
doesn't make no
completely
sense.
doesn't exist. Yeah.
That's an iconic moment in your story.
Exactly. That's what I said to him. Yeah, I said that to him as well on the pod. But I realized that it's the same story he's told word for word, pretty much verbatim, as if it's a script on 3 different podcasts.
When
But
it's
I was the only
rehearsed.
one who said it to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Literally, like word for word, as in like, I got my comb, I did this, you know, really in detail, as if it's like a story that's been planned out.
Yeah.
And again, like, I don't sit there and say you're a liar. I just say, look, I'm gonna have to do my research. It doesn't sound believable, and that was it. But I said that on the pod, and I've never done that before, and it was just because of that. It just it didn't feel right to me.
Yeah.
The other one I haven't put out, and I don't know if I will put it out.
Is it from recently or a while back or?
I recorded it maybe 4 or 5 months ago, I think.
Okay, so it's still recent.
Yeah. His name's
Oh, you did a podcast with him.
yeah.
And
So it was really weird because like with him, he was like his manager was like trying to be really controlling from the get go before we even recorded. He's trying to be like, you know, do we get to review it before it goes out? And I said to him, no, like whatever recorded, it goes out.
you do that with all your guests.
I do with all my guests. Yeah, we don't edit anything. We don't like say, okay, you know,
Yeah,
cut this out for you or whatever. No, it's like we sit down, we talk. So the manager said, okay, and he said in the WhatsApp chat, he was like, note this as in like remember that. So then on the pod, there was he was telling his a story, no problem. And then there's 2 things. So I asked him about this whole brokerage thing, and I asked him about because I knew about his setup, and I said, do you do the same thing as like, do you make people place their first trade? And then he was like, you know, I'm not sure how he does it. I don't want to really talk about it. Afterwards, he asked me, can we remove that? And then the last one, and this is the thing, the last question I asked him is like, how much do you make from your broker affiliates? How much money's in it? And he was like, you know, kind of trying to go side to side with it. And then he finally just said, because I kind of just waited until he said it, was like, you can make a lot. And then straight out, and then that was the end, right? And then straight after, he was like, can we cut that, you know, from the pod? And I was like, no, like,
It stays in.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, his manager was trying to get on me about it. He was like, you know, we decide and all this. And I was like, no, because you've agreed to it. It's right there in the up in the chat, you know?
Yeah.
And I felt that was really weird. Not what, because I understood what was going on. So I was like, nah, that's not weird.
So how come you decided to do a podcast with him then?
Because I wanted to see. Like, for me, with the podcast.
I'll give you an example. Let me. Sorry to interrupt you. I'm going to give you an example. Yeah, if I was to have someone like that on a podcast, maybe not so much with you because you've got a trading channel anyway. People, like, you know, you're in the whole trading space. But for example, Uremi's episode dropped last week. It hasn't dropped in real life, but I already know there's a ton of comments on there saying scammer, da 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 da. That's what who you just had on the podcast. Top level scammer. Yeah. So it's like you knowing that as well. So I'd ask why have him on.
So my mindset is like, you have them on because they expose themselves. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Especially because mine is a trading pod. So like, and especially because what we just talked about, people are getting hurt by these people, right? So like, have them on and then let them just talk it out. So like Nut I mentioned earlier, loads of people still to this day, even though, you know, I went and worked there and I learned behind the scenes how bad that was. And I'll tell this bit in a minute actually, but like people still ask to have him on. And I've always said, I'll have him on. But will he answer the questions? But the main thing is he won't come on because he knows, because I know firsthand, he's told me to my face firsthand of the lies and everything. So he would never come on because he would never be able to maneuver that, right? Because I know too much about him, right?
You just stick it on a man on a podcast,
Exactly, yeah. But like with, for example, I don't know him. So I don't know 100%, but I get the setup because I have the experience and knowledge of the industry. So I have them on because I'll ask them questions. But again, I haven't put it out because it's the same thing. I don't want to deal with the mess and I don't want to promote that to people because the unfortunate thing is you can say and highlight certain things, but people might not read between the lines and then they might go join it anyway.
Oh I feel they don't get the gist of that. You're trying to bring him on to show people the actual truth.
Yeah, exactly. And so therefore I had an opportunity to have a guy called in Dubai.
Yep.
Turned that one down. Had a chance to have a trader. I just ignored them after that.
What's his name? Or something in it.
Something like that. I don't know. I can't remember their names, but yeah, like after I had them, like they were ready to come on because obviously it's a big platform for them, and it's like for them obviously in their mind it's like if we're making this money off these random influencers, we get a trading one, big money, right? Literally. So then I have to be mindful, right? But that's why I didn't put it out because I was just like he told his normal story. You know, I got robbed in my car in London here, and I got made this much, and all this stuff, right? But then when it comes to the real questions, it's like side, just no real substance there.
Yeah.
And then he wants them being removed. So it's just like, rather than avoiding the mess, that's why I didn't put it out. I could still put it out, but it's kind of like, is it worth putting out? Because at this point, it's like, you have to be, it's kind of like Tate said. Remember when Tate had that issue of like, you said this. And he was like, look, I said that when I was a no one. Like, I was still trying to grow an audience.
Yeah.
I understand now, though, that I have to be more careful or be more strategic in what I say, because it has a much bigger impact than 10 years ago, or whatever it may be, right? And it's the same principle here. Obviously, the audience size isn't there yet, but it's already at a point where it matters, about what you put out. And what I was going to say to you before I forget is that the funniest thing is, another reason why I didn't put that pod out was because shortly after that, I went to Novikov in London. I visited London and went to the restaurant. And guess who was sat on a table opposite me?
Who? Oh, no way.
So then that's when I knew I'm never putting that episode out, because that never happened. So that was another reason, because I saw them there and I was like, you two are in cahoots.
Yeah, they all are. They're all in cahoots, which is crazy, man. And do you ever see people on Instagram, before I say that, what I see from an outside perspective, someone who's not in the trading world, is they're not the scammers, or if you want to call it, but they always have that cliche story of, I used to work in Sainsbury's, all that sort of stuff, broke as anything, and then now I'm living like this. Here's how you could do it as well. And I'm just like, firstly, bruv, why is it always Sainsbury's with all these influencers? They must be, not paying anything.
Yeah.
And secondly, like, why the push on this homeless story so much, or whatever it is? Because
it's like the rags to riches. The funny thing with that, is that there can be truth to it. They probably did work in Sainsbury's, right? Like, so for me, like, I worked in Chunky Chicken before I went and started to really see any growth in my trading or anything. I worked in Chunky Chicken, which is like a KFC, if you will, right? Yeah. So I did work there, and I did do the fryer, and I did clean the toilets and the place afterwards. I did all that, and it sounds cool, right? In terms of a story now, it didn't sound cool at the time, of course, but in terms of a story now, it's like, I used to work there, and now look at me now.
Yeah, but the thing is, you can make it in such a, you can squeeze it in such a way where it's a full-on good PR story to run with, which is the main thing. Which
I feel like that's what they have to do, though, because they don't have the substance. So what do you do instead? You use lifestyle, and you use, like you said, a PR story, right? And there's nothing wrong with a PR story. But if you're just going to then have lifestyle and no substance and no results, that's where the problem comes in, right? Because the chain is broken. If you have a good PR story and you have substance and you have results, no problem, go away. Go do your marketing as you wish, because you've got it all. You've got it all there. So that's where the issue comes in, right? So like that's why they use it, because they have to. They need this PR story. And plus, it makes it relatable, right? It makes, I used to work in Sainsbury's, or I work in Asda right now. He's done it, so I can do it, right? And don't get me wrong, representation is important, because that's one thing I was going to say to you is like, what you've done is incredible, because, you've shown to, especially like a lot of Asian people generally, and a lot of people anyway, are very reluctant to get on social media. But especially when they have an example that looks like them, it's very powerful, because then they go, he can do it, I can do it. It's like, what was his name? His name is, I'm kicking myself now.
Podcaster or?
No, YouTuber. Asian. Diary of a
CEO.
No. What was his name? Diary of a Bad Man.
Hamza Oshad.
Hamza Oshad,
yeah.
It's a prime example, bro. I remember when I saw him when he was blowing up.
Yeah.
I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, probably.
Yeah.
I remember looking at him saying, he can do, I can do this, right? I didn't do it, obviously, because again, I held myself back. But it's the same principle, right? Like when you see someone like yourself, like him, who blow up, and because they put in work, though, a lot of people see the after effect, obviously, but they recognize, though, that if he can do it, I can do it. And that's a powerful thing, but it's also a dangerous thing when people use it in the wrong way, like we're just saying.
Yeah. Before I get to that bit, one of the other things about scamming and stuff like that, as I wanted to ask you, is have you ever seen someone like a trader on Instagram that shows off their lifestyle, and you thought, you know what, I want to have you on and speak about it, and they reject it? And my thought train is, if they reject it, it's like maybe because they can't tell the story legit, and they'll just get found out straight away. Have you ever had a situation like that?
I've had people say no,
right?
I've had people say no. They don't say why, right? And sometimes my assumption is the same, right? Because it's like, okay, they probably, especially because I do ask the questions as necessary, then they probably want to avoid it, because they might be worried about how they would answer. Because the thing with podcasts is, because they're not scripted, someone like that who works off scripted and works off scripts and works off making sure that they do things a specific way, exactly, they struggle with it, or they worry about it. I have had people, though, very interesting enough, I've had people on who they show a lifestyle, and I have them on and I ask them the questions, and then afterwards I do think, this is actually legit, right? He just has the lifestyle as well, but he's saying everything right. He has the knowledge. He seems to explain the strategy well as well. And he's sharing the reality of trading too. So I've had that. I've actually had one where I said to him afterwards, coming here, I thought you were fake.
Is it?
Yeah. His name's Lambo Raul. That's his Instagram name. He just got
from
a Bugatti,
Dubai or
actually.
something.
He's from Miami.
Okay.
He just got a Bugatti like 2 weeks ago. So same thing, like that's the thing though. So he just got a Bugatti. Before that he had the Lambos.
Bugatti from trading money.
From trading money, yeah. Well, that's what he's I would imagine saying. But not maybe just trading money, because the thing is, this is what I'm getting to, is on the pod I said, like, how much do you make from your courses? He said about 2 to 3 million a year, right? How much do you make from trading? He goes the same, about 2 to 3 million a year. So that's incredible, right? So that someone's sharing that though. Most people will be like, courses, either they'll avoid it or they'll say 200-300 get small amounts, but my trading makes me 10 million. But he shared it. He was very realistic, very honest about it. But most of all, that's one thing, right? That's a tick. But the other thing was like about his actual trading. Like, what is your trading routine like? What was trading like for you? What was your journey like? And then he has verified, like in terms of his returns as well. He's not sitting there saying, I made 200 grand today. He's making good returns, like 30k days and 30k trades. So that's incredible, right? But he's not like going absolutely insane returns and saying, oh my God, I'm doing this every day, right? He's very realistic returns consistently. And yeah, like that was one of the interviews where I came out, like I said it to him. I was like, well, coming into this, I thought you were just one of these lifestyle marketers, right? But as I said, when I go into the interview, I try not to have a bias though. I'll ask the questions, but I won't sit there and try and like attack the guy like, oh my God. But I'll ask questions though, like that, like how much do you make from courses and so on.
Put them in uncomfortable situations.
Exactly. Like, what do you say to people who call you a scammer and so on? But yeah, after that, I said to him, like, I'm more than happy to believe that you actually do trade, because everything you said was, above par, and you've shared, very openly what you're making, etc. So even with the cars, for example, he openly said like he doesn't buy them cash. He buys them, and a lot of the time he goes for not entry-level supercars, which I didn't even know was a thing until I had this conversation.
What's that, non-entry-level supercars?
Yeah, so like he's going for the ones that are like actually appreciate. They appreciate in value. So he's actually making money on them.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that was a thing. I was like, what is this? So like even like he just had a Senna and he sold the Senna to get the Bugatti.
Yep.
So like, I'm cars-wise, watches, nothing. I don't know nothing. But it was really enlightening to hear these things. Well, one, to learn about it. Like there's a whole different side of the car industry and watch industry that I had no idea about, but equally to hear him say like, I don't just buy these cars cash and try and flaunt them. I'm making money on them. I'm buying them. Yeah, I'll use them for a bit, enjoy them, take pictures with them.
Good marketing.
Yeah, good marketing.
It's all making money.
And then sell it. And he said he does the same with watches and does the same with houses as well, real estate. So it's not just like trading is his only income, which was another thing. But yeah, but so it's really good to have those moments too. So I've had moments on both sides where I went in thinking this guy's probably no good, but he is good. Go in thinking this guy's no good, and he is no good.
Riz, who inspired you when you started the podcast?
So this is interesting, actually. So obviously Joe Rogan, of course, right? Then there's yourself, because I remember seeing you. Yeah,
no, we started pretty much at the same time, so I don't know.
I started a bit after you. I think you'd really started to accelerate way before myself. But I remember seeing you though. I remember seeing which episode must I have seen? I know obviously there's a Tate one, but I saw you way before then.
So when did you start your podcast? What month? What year? It was 2020, right?
No. I think I was after 2020. So it's 2024 now, 2023. 2022 I started.
Really?
Yeah. I started in about May 2022.
Wow. That's the time I dropped the Tate episode. So yeah, you would have seen that one. But yeah, maybe before that, because I had Aleem come on the podcast.
Yeah, I would have seen that.
Farmhouse Boys and a few other people around that sort. So yeah, but no, I appreciate that.
Yeah, definitely. I remember seeing it and saying the same thing. Remember what I said earlier? I was like, if he's doing it, that Asian guy, he's done it. I've always wanted to do it and I haven't done it. But look, he's done it and he's done it before me and he does it really well and it's blowing up. Well, what's stopping me now? Like I have no excuses now. And not only that, you weren't doing it where you had a studio.
Yeah.
Right? You started grassroots, if you will. Like you started with your own equipment, traveling around, and what excuse did I have now? Someone's done it now. Someone's done it without a studio now. Someone's gone and done that. And he's Asian too. And he's probably similar age or a bit younger, right? So you have no excuses. So it's kind of like a push, and again, some people might look at that and have the same thought process, but then they don't take action.
Yeah, it's the execution that matters the most.
Exactly.
Sweet. Yeah. So where do you take your podcast from here? Because you've built a business off the back of it right now as well.
Yeah. We got a few. So we got Skilled Funded Trader, which is one of those evaluation firms I talked about.
Yep.
We have a new channel that's coming off the back of it. So that's not really a business. That's coming by the time this launches, that will be out. So it's like a very entertainment style of content. Sort of more like Sunday conversations style within the trading space, because the trading space is so serious.
Just to give you perspective, this podcast will probably come out on the 3rd of March.
Yeah, so it'll be out by then. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
we'll
I'll
have
leave a
1 or
link in
2
the
episodes
description.
out by then. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's really fun, right? And people are probably going to be really shocked, especially for my audience, because I'm so obviously the podcast is very serious, very value driven.
Yeah,
This is just complete opposite.
You just showed me a clip of it off camera on me. I'm not going to say anything, but I was cracking up as well.
I'm glad.
It's
glad.
completely different from a podcast.
We're very confident about it, but we're equally very scared about it because obviously it's so different.
Yeah.
But that's again about taking risks. What else have we done? We've done a Patreon recently, actually, just to help really push the podcast even more. So we give them exclusive pods and Q&As and get people interviews and then exclusive discounts on things as well. And then Cold Chartered, right? So I'm wearing Cold Chartered. We started this brand. So I'm not obviously a big fan.
I like it. No, it looks nice.
One,
oh no,
so
sick.
you
I
can have
appreciate
one
that.
yourself.
I appreciate that. Let's open it right now on camera for the people.
That's it.
Where do we open it from?
We literally, this hasn't launched yet. This probably will launch similar time to when
it hasn't launched, no?
actually, yeah. But we spent the time. You just rip it open, man. You just rip it open.
I'm trying to think where's the...
Don't worry. No, don't worry. It won't insult me, imagine. But no, just rip it open.
So this is the brand you've made recently, yeah?
Cold Chartered. So we called it Cold Chartered because we didn't want it to be just sound trading, get pips, pips on money and all this sort of thing. That's just trading related.
So what's the actual meaning of Cold Chartered?
Cold Chartered is more so this one in particular is called Stay Frosty, right? It says underneath Cold Chartered there. So Stay Frosty is a term that they use in the military for as in be focused, stay alert. And obviously as traders and just generally
you have to stay alert.
Focused, And on the front there it says
I didn't even see that actually.
For those who start from absolute zero. So absolute zero obviously in relation to cold, but absolute zero is where we all start from, right? We all start from the bottom. So that was the principle of this. So in terms of a clothing brand, the interesting thing is that it's not something that, let's say I'm there I want to make a Gucci. There was something that was in my mind always. But I've always loved the creation. That's what I love about the podcasting. I love about making content is the element of creating something. Right, starting from idea, so whether it's an episode like this, starting with, okay, this is how I want it to go, or I want to try and make it like this, and it's not scripted, but you're this is the general idea, but then seeing the reality and the result of that, and how did the audience perceive it. Same with Cold Chartered, is making the design, the labels, the sizing, the style of the clothing, right, the quality of the clothing, what writing and print do we want on it, the color of that print, etc. So doing that all on a computer, then sending it to the printer, then ordering it and printing it, etc. Going through that whole process and then having the ready product, right? Creating the website, then actually trying to sell it, seeing how it actually sells. Maybe it doesn't sell out. Maybe it does. Maybe it sells out massively, right? Maybe you sell some and you don't. You learn. You go on to the next one. You keep going. So this isn't really a money maker necessarily. Eventually, hopefully, it will build a big brand, but it's more of a project. It's more I enjoy this. I enjoy this curation side of things. But the main thing I would say is that, in terms of businesses and the podcast, that is the way to go about things, I would say. When people ask me now, should I get into trading? I say yes. If you're interested in trading, if you have a passion for trading. But if you don't, then maybe look into it to see if you do, because I didn't even heard about it, so I wouldn't know if I had a passion, right? But if you really don't, if your passion is money, right, to be successful, find out what you enjoy and make content around it. Whether it's a podcast, whether it's a social page, start that way, because that's the day and age we're in now. We're in that age.
I completely agree, because I know there's a lot of money in trading, and I've thought about it so many times, shall I start trading? Just make some more money and all that sort of stuff. But I can't personally, I just can't sit down and do it. I love the creative process. I love everything to do with creativity. And you could tell me yourself, podcasting, creating content versus trading, what has more creativity in it?
100%. There's no creativity.
Yeah, no creativity.
Trading is actually very boring. It's very lonely. It's very boring. Yeah. It's very mundane.
Yeah.
While content is the complete opposite. Yeah. You have so much freedom, and especially when you're trying to do something unique, especially when you're trying to get the results, you have to try different things, right? And you have to be careful not to just do the classic, just try everything and change all the time. But you have to find your niche, and then you build from there. But it's all you get to decide how that looks. You get to decide what content you put out. You get to decide what you say. Don't get me wrong, I would say though that don't fall into the Gary Vee trap of just make sure you're posting 5 times a day on all these different platforms and eventually it will pop. No, be specific. Because I posted for years, bro, where I didn't really see any results, right? And the reason for that was because I wasn't trying to get results, if that makes sense. So I had value, but I didn't understand the algorithm.
Yeah.
Right? I had value and people could learn, but I didn't understand how to get them to learn or get them to watch or get them to engage. Once I learned that, it was so much easier. And literally, I think everyone can do it. And again, I fall into the trap of saying that a lot, like everyone can do it, but not everyone's made out for it. Not everyone wants to do it. And that's fair enough, 100%. But I do truly believe we're in an age where everyone does, a lot of people, should I say, they do want to get involved in social media, right?
Yeah.
They want to build a presence. They want to build a brand, right? I know, like I said, a lot of family, that's where, when I was talking about businesses and stuff like that, a lot of family and friends, they do that all the time. They say to me, I'm going to start a page on this. Most of them don't ever do it. Some of them do. And when they do it for a month or two. Just when they probably might start to see any sort of result, they quit. And then they wait for 2-3 months, or life takes over. And that is a trick. Don't get me wrong. Like, all of us go through stuff, right? We all go through hardship. We all have, things that happen, deaths in the family. We get ill, a family member gets ill, stresses at work, stresses in the business, whatever it may be. There's always going to be something that is going to creep up on you. You can't allow that to stop you from doing what you need to do. You can't let that momentum slow down. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to sit there and say like, oh, someone died in the family, keep trading, right? That's crazy, right? But if someone died in the family, give the time necessary. Let's say you're at the moment when that happens, you're giving 80% to trading and 20% elsewhere. Cut that down to 20% here for the time being. Yeah. But you keep the momentum going. And that's in anything. Because that's the only way you're going to see results, because you're always going to be tested. I always said like the world is set up as a scam. That sounds the Matrix, if you will. It's like they're scamming us, right? That's a big statement to make. How? And I've always done it like this. I've always said, look at the calendar, right? The calendar, the 12 months that we have. And you will find every month at the minimum, normally every maybe even 3 weeks nowadays, is there's an event that is going to take you off guard. There's a bank holiday. There's an event to spend money on. There's an event that you're going to take your eye off the ball, and just start relaxing. Always. Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, Father's Day, your birthday, Eid, Christmas, Easter, New Year's, they make them up. They Black Friday, they just make it up. Cyber Monday is out of nowhere, right? Nowadays they got also like Book Day and Sibling Day,
random ones,
everything, right? And they just make these things up because why? Like what is the average person doing? They're living for the weekend already, right? They're already living on the weekend. And even as traders, though, it's the same principle, right? So many traders, they trade Monday to Friday, fantastic. But they break all their momentum on the weekend. Because, the markets might be closed on the weekend, so they can't trade. But you still need to do something. Review your trades. Look at what happened the previous week. Forecast what's going to happen in the next week, right? Watch some videos to learn, a podcast, whatever. Keep the momentum going. Because that restful period takes you out, that sharpness
takes you off your ball,
takes you off the ball, and then you start to slip up. You start to get emotional. You start to fall into old habits, whatever it may be. And it's that same principle there, let alone anything else. Social media is the biggest one. You have to be consistent. Like anyone who takes a break from social media, they just setting that you have to start a new account, I would say. Right. For the most part, you have to start a new account, because you'll notice that when people do take prolonged breaks, the results aren't the same when they come back, even if they're doing the exact same thing, even if they are consistent when they get back. And but I think social media, I say to people all the time, social media, if you build a personal brand, you can monetize that brand, which is an incredible thing. Like you can really monetize it at a very high level and have that freedom you want. But it's the same principle we talked about earlier. Monetize in an ethical way, right? Don't just monetize because you can. That's what these guys are doing. All these influencers, that's what they're doing just because they can and because it's easy. But just do it in an ethical way. There are many ways. Like a lot of these guys could have chosen to do anything else. But let's be honest, some of them might just not have the business acumen or the work rate to do it. They might have done something really good in something else. Exactly, but they just don't know how to translate it. And that's the difference. Like someone might be a good influencer, like in terms of content, but they're not a good business person. So therefore, this sort of opportunity where it's like, look, you just post, you do your thing in terms of content creation. I'll pay you crazy amounts of money. That's it. That's all that. Then that person's just thinking, I'm just making content. That's in their mind. That's probably how they get away with it, and that's probably how they trick themselves into thinking it's fine. But you just got to be mindful of like what because I get offers all the time. You can imagine I get emails. I'm sure you get it all the time as well. Like I get emails all the time from all these different brokerages, all these different signal groups, all these different like random things I've never heard of, or especially like, all these random games like this. And I think it's a fake email.
No, we get loads of the fake emails ones.
I can imagine. They're like, we'll give you $500. You just do a 1 minute ad read, and I'm like, I've never even heard of this. What is it? But like, I turn down offers all the time, especially brokerage. Like brokers throw big money at the podcast, right?
So do you have sponsors in your podcast then?
I sponsor it with my own company, the SFC, Skilled Funded Traders.
But that hasn't always been the case though, because obviously that you only started recently, no?
That was the last 6 months. Before that, I didn't have for the growth, I didn't have any sponsors. As you can imagine, same with yourself, right? Like you grow by yourself.
Yeah, literally.
Once you've grown, now everyone wants you. Everyone wants to support you then, which is fine. I get it. But yeah, so Skilled Funded Traders is one. Trade Zeller, obviously, with Umar, which is a funny story. So this Rolex, a lot of people obviously ask me, oh, it's a great watch, right? You know, and all that. I don't really know about watches.
Yeah, because you were saying you were saying earlier, you know, that watches, cars, you don't like really know much. Yeah, and I was thinking, bro, you got a Rolex on your wrist.
I know, but that's Umar. Umar bought me this Rolex.
Yeah, sick.
He gifted to me in Dubai recently for just the growth of the pod and you know, the impact it's having on the industry. And that again, it's just a testament to the sort of guy he is. Because the funny thing is, like, I literally said to my wife the day before he did that, like, I'm not going to buy a Rolex. I was toying buying one or not. And I was like, I'm not going to buy one. I'm not really bothered about watches. Then the next day he gifts me one.
Yeah.
And I must say, like, what people do say about, one, the feeling it gives you. Now, it doesn't change you as a person. But
as in a watch in general?
Yeah, just a watch in general. Like a nice watch, it does make you feel good. It makes you feel like, okay, you know, you, especially when you've worked hard for something. I wouldn't say like just anyone, if you haven't got one, this is going to change your life and help you be successful. No. What I would say is that if you've worked really hard and then you get this it's like a medal of honor, if you will. It's like an accolade. It's like an emblem of your hard work, right? It's like this studio is part of that for you, right? Or like the YouTube play button, for example.
That's why I put it there. Exactly that,
Yeah. It's the same principle there that I think we watch anyway.
It's true. No, I bought my first Rolex when I hit 100k subscribers. I was like, yeah, sick. Just as a memorable piece. Exactly. As, you know, it's a piece of history.
Exactly. And that's what they say, right? Everyone always used to say it. And I used to think, what? Like, you know, every watch tells a story. And I used to be like, nah, what are you talking about? I can tell a story. I don't need a watch, right? But it's true though.
We're podcasters. We could do this for a living.
I know, exactly. But it's so true because since I've had it, I have had people come and say, oh, it's a very nice watch. You know, and then I tell them, and even though the story's a bit different, I tell them like it was a gift. And even that's a conversation starter. You know, without me even saying like, actually, you know, I bought it there or any of that. Literally just saying it was a gift is a conversation starter. They're thinking, what? Who the hell gifted you that?
Who's going to gift you a Rolex? It's mad.
And it's incredible. Now, I'll tell you a very funny story about that though. So they gifted me this. I was actually doing an event for Skilled Funded Traders, and we were at this golf thing. And now Umar thought I was leaving Dubai the next day, and he's quite an introverted person too. But he came to the Top Golf in Dubai with all these traders around and the cameras to give it me, thinking I was going to leave. So then he put himself in this super like awkward position for himself, like in front of everyone, like to give me the watch. I remember what happened. He gave me the watch, and I was looking at it. I was like, whoa! Like I was looking at it, and then I looked up. He was gone. I was like, where's he gone? Yeah, and it was just because he literally just came to give it me, and then because he thought I was gonna go. But the crazy thing is, like the guy who obviously, you know, this is a team effort in terms of podcasting, right? It's like, unless I don't know, do you edit yourself and everything?
AI. But yeah,
you're savage. Yeah, this is why this is what I mean. Like you set the levels. But like me, I have a team. I always had a team. I had one guy who worked with me from the bottom, and he always edited it for me. So he's been with me from day one. Like it wouldn't be possible without him. So anyway, Umar gives me this watch, right? And then he looks at it and he goes, bro, I swear to God, that's my dream watch. Like exactly like everything from all the different elements that can be changed. Like he goes, that's my dream watch. And I felt bad because I was like, oh, well, I've got it. You know, I got it now. Everyone's words of Rizdom, mate. It says my name on there. Yeah, no, but we have banter. But literally last weekend I bought him this watch because it was just like for me, and I said it to him, it's like it wouldn't be possible without him. And even though he's behind the scenes and no one knows his face or anything, you know, his name's Josh, by the way. But I won't go further than that in case people look him up.
Yeah, literally. I'm gonna hire him.
His biggest fear is being famous. That's what he said. Yeah.
Okay, so he's always going to be off behind the camera.
Exactly. Yeah. We've toyed with like we're going to put you on and do this. And he gets stressed out about it.
So how many people do you have working in your team now?
Now, so essentially for the podcast, I have three people. Yeah. Right. So there's Falak here who does like the logistics, helps me with guests now, helps me with hiring studios when I travel, and even getting me onto podcasts as well. And then I have Josh who does the main editing and the trailer, and then I have another guy called Evans who does all the clips, like clips all the short form. Yeah. So they're the team, and then for these new projects like Cold Chartered, so Josh has his own media company. He works with a lot of big influencers. They work with like DAZN for the boxing. They've worked with Deji with the boxing before. They worked with a lot of big people. And so I was very lucky to work with him in the first place. That was another reason I did it, because he could have left me a long time ago. Like, I don't pay him enough for him to be with me. So it was like the least I could do, right? And yeah, so like they have a bigger team. They have like a team of 10, right? And they have these huge studio spaces, which I use as well. And so like their team of 10 helped me with the new channel. Their team of 10 helped me with the cold chartered. And even with skilled funded traders, I got them involved there as well because their skill set's incredible. They like have everything from graphic design, website design, short form, long form, SEO, everything. And they're really incredible what they do. And like I said, I'm very blessed to kind of met Josh before he blew up, like before they had that as well. And I he met me before I had anything, and we kind of just grown together. And I think he's been really good for me because it's good to have people who are working at a high level, are operating at that high level. And the podcast has done that for me too. And I think the podcast is really a cheat code to networking, a cheat code to be having access to high level people.
Definitely, yeah, right? Definitely. I could never have imagined the people that I know now, the people that I like know I can meet.
Exactly.
I wouldn't be able to do that without the podcast, which is mad.
Incredible. That's why I always say it's like a selfish thing.
Yeah.
Right. Yes, the audience and the impact it has is incredible. But really, I'm getting to meet these people and I get to network with these people, learn from these people myself as well. So it's really good to have people like that are around you, like Josh, for example, in your team, because they keep you grounded. They will give you advice. They will give you their 2 cents and okay, maybe we should do the trailer like this, or like an episode. Like maybe we shouldn't put this episode out, right? Because of X, Y, or Z reason. And you reason with them and you talk about it, or even with new projects, right? You might have we're cold chartered. Luckily, Josh's brother who works on the team, it's called Blood Brother Media because there's 2 sets of brothers. So that's why the name. But he used to have a clothing brand, so he has experience. Well, I don't. So I was there like, yeah, let's order like 200 of each, right? I've got a big audience, like 200, that's a low. And he's like, no, start lower, right? Just to be sure. Like you'd rather sell out, right? Or at least have a chance of selling out.
And then have to restock rather than having stock sitting there.
Yeah, rather than over ordering, right? And then you've done all these expenses and etc. So like having those people, just that small piece of advice and their experience is so helpful. Whether you're in business with them or do projects with them or they're just friends and you're doing your business, they're doing theirs. That is a very powerful thing. And it's hard to find. So I'll tell you the truth about part of my journey as well, is that I used to be addicted to weed, right? When I was 18, 19, 20, right? I was addicted to weed. And now, again, it's an easy story to say, like I was a drug addict and now I'm a trader on a podcaster, right?
That's the trailer.
Exactly. Yeah, there you go. Right. But it's true though. This is what I was going to say earlier about the whole story thing, is that everyone has a story. That's the beauty of the pod, is that everyone does have a story. Some are worse than others in terms of they started lower than others, but everyone has a low moment and everyone has that low thing in their life. And usually, and the only reason that is because then they wouldn't have a story. Let's say if someone started here, their low moment normally comes later in life.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Right? Because they're not experienced it at a young age, so then they end up making mistakes or being naive to certain things. So then when it happens later in life, it actually hurts more for the most part. But yeah, for me, I was addicted to weed at the time. And at the time I thought it was cool. Honestly, I thought it was cool me telling people I smoke this much weed. I can smoke this much weed. Like I thought it was a cool thing. Like I'm a Snoop Dogg type guy. You know what I mean? And it's just not cool.
I don't get high until I have 10 zoots sort of thing.
Exactly. I was exactly that type of guy. And it was really bad. Like don't get me wrong. I'm not sitting here like weed is terrible for everyone. Like there are people who smoke weed and they operate at a high level. I'm just not one of them. Like when I smoked weed, and I think for the majority of people, and again, this is what we were talking about earlier, like don't look at the enigma, the one guy who does smoke loads of weed and then, is very successful. Look at the most people, right? The most people are smoking a lot of weed and they're not getting anywhere, right? And they're just dumbing their brain down, which I was doing. And so yeah, I was literally smoking weed for a good year like that, very hard, 2 years, very hard like that. And I was just around other people doing the exact same thing. And it's not their fault, right? That's what their choice is. And I chose to be around them. But all my decisions I was making was based off who was smoking weed. So my friends were based off who else smoked weed. The things I would do was based off, would I be able to smoke weed and be able to go do those things?
Yeah.
Right? So it was a really bad mindset to have. And this is at the beginning of the trading as well, when I came across trading. So again, that year and a half where I didn't really put in much work, probably because of the weed. Again, action, obviously, I'm self-accountable. You have to take action yourself. But that was the sort of fog I was in. And I remember there was a moment, and I was around these group of lads. There was about 15, 20 of them, that they all knew each other for a long time. I kind of just came into the group. And I used to say to them, they used to party all the time. They used to go clubbing and stuff and every sort of weekend on the student nights and all that. But none of them were students, which was weird. But it was a really confusing time. But I said to them, like, I remember, because I still had the mindset, right? I still had the mindset, wanting to be an entrepreneur, etc. So I used to say to them, like, occasionally, like, oh, look, there's a good group of lads here, 10, 15 of us. Why don't we all work hard at something? And then, once a month or when we have something to celebrate, we can go out and we can chill. And I used to say it all the time. They'd be like, yeah. And then we'll just go back to just smoking weed and just
back
dossing
to the
off.
same old routine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then I remember I went to UFC 205, November the 6th, I want to say, or 5th or 7th, around that sort of time, 2016. Conor McGregor versus Alvarez, right? When he won the second champ. You know when the iconic line when he goes, "I want to take this moment to apologize."
Yeah.
To absolutely nobody. Yeah. That moment changed my life, man. Like, because I was there and I remember sitting there and I was at the nosebleeds, right? I was at the nosebleeds. I was high up, but it was still an incredible atmosphere, Madison Square Garden. I remember I was sitting there, standing there, and I was like, if I'm here right now, if I work hard, and if I wanted to, but if I work hard and I make something of myself, I can sit down there, cage side, right? I could be in the cage if that's a goal I have. I could do anything, especially because Conor had just gone through this journey of doing the whole visualization, putting in the work, and then that was probably the peak of his fighting career, right? The double champ moment. And I remember being in that moment, just thinking, very profound, like sitting there going, I could do that. So literally, I remember going home from that trip and I went to them boys. I said, I'm quitting weed. I'm done. Like, I'm not doing it no more. Right. And then they all started doing these comments of like, you're getting religious and you're serious and all this sort of thing. Right. And then I just had to cut them off. Right. And it's not because necessarily they're bad people. Right. They were just doing their decisions and whatever. They were living their life. And who am I to tell them how they should live that life? But they were bad for me. Right. They weren't aligned with my vision. And I think there's a lot of people out there, unfortunately, who are in that same position where they're around other people because of certain things, not because they necessarily want to be, or not because they necessarily think they're actually good people for them. And I would say to those people, always just step away. Don't be afraid of solitude. Like I spent a good, 6 to 9 months after that just by myself, and not meaning like literally no one. I had my family. I had other friends I could speak to, but in terms of like chilling on a day to day, etc., I just spent time by myself.
Well, sometimes them changes are like in your case, I can say, it's the best things that can happen to you.
100%.
Best things that you can do. So in that fear of people being lonely and stepping away from the people, out of the fear, do it and see where it ends up, because you'll end up way further than you could ever imagined. Now you can 100% go to MSG, ringside, or cage side, whatever the case is, because simply of that one decision right there.
Exactly. It's so powerful, because I took just a really small point, but I used to watch these roundtables with actors on. I can't remember who hosts them, but it's like it's hosted by like Universal or something. But it'd be like Robert De Niro and Robert Downey Jr. and like just these big actors would sit on a roundtable and it's essentially a podcast.
Yeah.
But I remember all like the common theme when you hear them all talk. Bear in mind, these are big players. Denzel Washington, all of them, like these big players, right? They all say like, when they started, and even to this day, a lot of them would say as well, especially when they do stage stuff, so like plays rather than actual, filming, they still have fear. They're still scared to go out there. They're still scared to go through that process. Look at Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson, the king, right? The heavyweight champ of the world, was scared when he would walk to the ring, right? And they were all basically saying though, like, on the other side of fear is what you want. Like the fear is there, and if you don't overcome that, you will never get to where you want to be. And I remember that always stuck with me. And I remember there was another saying where it's like, if things feel chaotic and they feel a bit out of control, a bit crazy, it's a good thing, because it means you're actually trying to do something. You're trying to progress, right? Versus if everything's calm, what does that mean? That means you're probably not doing nothing. Like, you're not trying to do anything worth doing. And those things always stuck with me, of like, especially in moments, even like to this day, I still get stressed out. Like last week we had a death in the family. I've got obviously my kids. I've got obviously the podcast, the new channel coming, Cold Chart is coming, new business deals to be done. Whilst I'm running the podcast still, uploading and schedule, all that's happening at once, right? And it felt very chaotic, I remember. But I just sit there and I think, one, I'm blessed to do this in the first place, right? Secondly, I chose to do this. And that's a big thing as well. It's like you chose this life. It's like trading, the same thing. Like, you chose, like if you experience a loss and you get all annoyed or whatever, you chose this life though. Losing is guaranteed in trading. So how can you get annoyed, right? And same with this, like it's chaotic right now. That's fine. You chose, it's the life you chose. It's part of the game. It's part of this. And you have to get used to it, right? And you just have to accept it, right? And again, just divert attention wherever necessary for that period of time. Things will smooth out. But life is always like that. It doesn't matter how rich you are. Look, Andrew Tate, he made so much success. He built his brand, so much money. Of course, there's going to be these moments.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
His was a lot harder, but notice the match though. It's something I call the law. Well, I don't call it. It's the law of polarity. It's like a universal law. It's like for every action, there's an opposite and equal reaction. So he had all this success, and then he had to unfortunately experience this really down moment where maybe you could say it was equal.
It's got to balance out basically.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's just accepting that. It's just accepting that, okay, you're going to have these highs, you're going to have these lows. But the lows lead you to the highs. Sometimes the highs end up leading you to the lows.
Yeah.
And that was always a powerful lesson for me that I learned early on, thankfully.
You mentioned just now that all these things you're doing, and it's a bit chaotic.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way you could still be trading.
That's a good question, actually.
Because from what I know, trading is time consuming.
Mm-hmm.
And everything you're doing, like, I can't imagine how you're doing trading as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be real. Because I'm like, the guy spends the time on the computer or the phone, whatever it is, and then you said you're backlogged for podcasts for like 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
How often do you record?
I still record quite often, to be fair.
Recording often. Like, there's so many things. I'm just like, brother, where does this guy have time? Where?
That's a very, very good question, because I was getting a lot of comments like that, right? Like, you're just a podcaster. You're not even a trader. You just make money from podcasts, not trading. Now, don't get me wrong. I make a lot more money from the businesses and the podcasts. So not the podcast itself, but like the sponsorships and all that. Then I do trading for sure. Like, I'm not someone to be there and be like, oh no, I make way more trading, because I have nothing to sell. I don't sell anything in the trading realm. I don't like have a course or anything like that.
Do you not have a course, no?
No,
Okay.
I don't have a course or anything like that. So then, when it comes to trading wise, it's a good point, because from April we started to see really massive growth, and from April, this is 2023
In the podcast.
yeah, massive growth, and I was traveling all the time for the pod. So like in April I was in New York, in May I went to Dubai, in June I went to Miami. I think August I had a kid, so I didn't travel anywhere. And then I went to Dubai again. I went to New York again, and then I went to New York again. So I was traveling a lot for the pod, right? So again, like trading wise, you're 100% right. In that time, I did not trade, right, properly. Why? Because I was scalping at the time. So scalping trading is very short term. So it's like you could be in a trade for like 15 minutes to an hour, or maybe a couple hours max. But to scalp, you really have to sit down, have a routine, I would say. You have to have a morning routine, sit down and you trade, right? Your whatever strategy you're trading. And you need to be on it like that. Monday to Friday, whatever days you trade, but normally Monday to Friday. I would trade London sessions, so that's 8 a.m. it starts. Sometimes you may trade Frankfurt's at 7 a.m. UK time. So you're getting up nice and early and you're trading for the next 3-4 hours. And then from there, that was my routine. That was how I traded. That's how I got profitable as well for about 3.5 years. So with podcasts, I couldn't do it. But it was fine because obviously the podcast was sustaining me. I was going like that. But then I still love trading. I really do. I am passionate about it. Like I said, when I heard about trading, that was a real thing where I literally said, this is what I want to do. I didn't know what it was at the time, but I wanted to do it, and that was real.
Do you feel like you got a trade to stay in the loop of what's going on in the trading world for you to be doing a trading podcast, if that makes sense?
Yeah, for sure. Like, it's definitely very helpful to understand what's happening, both on the industry level. So like, what's happening with, say, evaluation firms, what's happening to other influencers, what's happening with brokerages, because obviously conversations, but then also in the markets, because, if there's been a huge move in the market and I have a guest on who can explain that move, that happened recently, that's a very good episode. That's a value, because at the end of the day, even with us having quite a niche in terms of trading, I need to get trading value. I need to really extract trading value to the audience, not just the trader's journey, right? I need the value to the audience. So 100% need to be in tune. But equally, I had to make a change. So that's what the point I was getting to. I still do trade, but I just trade differently now. So now I trade swing trading, day trading. So essentially it's longer term. So I don't need to be on the charts every single day. I'm trying to hold trades for days, if not weeks. So then I don't have to sit there and manage it. I just get in the trade, set it, and then leave it. Let it play out. If I lose, I lose. If I win, I win. And I was going to say, have you got my phone? Let me show you. I feel like I'm doing a Switzy now. But so like this is FTMO, so that's an evaluation firm. So I'm funded with, and so for this last week, this is in dollars.
Oh, I'm looking at the bottom figure.
The bottom figure, yeah.
And this is your overall earnings, basically.
Exactly, yeah. For the last week, I made $10,000.
Yeah.
I get an 80% split, so that would be $8,000. So pounds, about £6,000, right? That's in a week. And I'm not saying that to boast or anything. What I'm saying is, if let's say the podcast and all that went away, that's the beauty of trading and the skill set, is that I can still have that skill set. I can still make 6,000 in a week, which is more than enough for a whole month, right? Obviously it depends on your expenses, but let's say if I was just doing normal life, not traveling and all this crazy stuff, that would be more than enough. Yeah. Right?
The way I look at it is trading seems like for you anyway, a very good way to have cash flow to do the podcast. For example, traveling to Dubai, New York, Miami, wherever you've been, like in the beginning phase of podcasting, podcasting might not pay for them overheads.
100%.
Yeah. But trading can. And so it just means that you're trading, you get the content, and it allows you to grow the podcast to a next level.
Exactly. So like originally that was what it was. So the trading helped me to obviously sustain the podcast.
Yeah.
The studio time, the rentals, the editing costs, etc. But then once it grew to a certain amount, the trading sort of sponsorship and the businesses I created off the back of it really excelled, right? And now that covers all that. So now trading really is just a hobby. That's the truth. Like trading is like, because I enjoy it. I have a passion for it. I don't mind if I lose and I don't mind if I win. I think you need that mentality anyway. Obviously you want to win, but if you bring that sort of desperation to the markets, it's not going to end well. But yeah, so like now it's just like hobby. So with that sort of money, I would probably just use it for a holiday or to spend it on the family or just save it. I'm not needing trading. And I think that's important though. I really do. Like, I understand that people a lot of the time they come across these things, whether it's trading or e-commerce or any of these sort of things, especially trading though, I'd say like trading in crypto and NFTs or any of that sort of stuff, is you want to have savings. You need to have savings. I would say you'd want to have a decent income before you even do it, because all that happens if you don't have any of those two things is you trade from desperation and then you just fall into big gambling. Yeah. Right? Because now you need money. And I get it. Don't get me wrong. Like I used to say like, if you want to get into trading for just the money or for money, then you shouldn't trade. Right? But at the end of the day, what is we all doing anything for? We're all doing it because we want to make some money, of course, and have that freedom. But there has to be passion there too. So like, I get it that you get into trading for money, but just understand, like if you don't have money, don't throw money into trading. Because it's not going to work. Don't look at these people saying online, like we'd already talked about, like showing this crazy unrealistic expectation. But equally, don't look at the person who might be legit, who did put in £1,000 and flip it to 100,000. Because that one guy did it maybe one time. And the reality is, if he kept going, he would have blown it all anyway. Because that's how it works. So yeah, like having an income helps your trading. The peace of mind you have is much higher when you have some form of income, or at least savings. So I would always say that to people, and trading in particular is like that because obviously you put money on the line. While yes, you don't have employees or staff and stuff, you have to put that money on the line, and then you have to manage that money with extreme discipline, which most people aren't anyway, and have emotional control, which most people aren't anyway, unfortunately. While with these other ventures, you might have to get employees or have to pitch your services, or you might have some overheads or like maybe a warehouse, but they're fixed. You know that, okay, this is going to cost me £100 a month, and I need to make sure I have £100 to pay that. Versus trading, you don't know if you're going to lose £1,000 or if you're going to make 50k, and that never changes though. No matter how good you are, that element doesn't change. You can never guarantee your income. So the best traders create businesses, whether it's within the trading niche or outside of it, or they get investments that pay them dividends that is fixed, that then allows to take that edge off, that need to make money. So the real traders, I would say, is that a lot of the big time traders, right? They make a large amount of money in a short period of time and they normally retire, right? That's their career. They they really sized in on the right trades, made millions, and they normally retire or slow down massively, right? And go and invest that money. The ones who do it longer term, maybe because of the passion, is they use that money to invest into businesses. They use that money to create.
As I said last week, we had Yurimi on the podcast. He's building all this wealth for him to do the Airbnb business, wherever it may be. I remember he said he's got Umrah business, I believe, and a few other things as well. And I even asked him, it's like a way to build wealth to fund these projects. And, I didn't ask I can't remember if I asked if trading has this podcast was filmed a while ago, so I can't remember what the conversation was. But it was like, it's a way to build wealth basically, long story short, and behold. Interested to know from you, Riz, what's your CPM on YouTube?
CPM, that's a good question. It changes sometimes, but on average, I believe it's about 18. So what the total is about 18 to 20. Sometimes it can go up to like 25, 30.
That's the financial niche. Literally, financial industry, for people who don't understand, financial industry on YouTube, killing it.
Massive, it is huge.
What do you charge? Like, you don't have to keep this on camera, but what do you charge for sponsorships?
So originally I really undersold myself, right?
Yeah, because I think I want to hear, I think I understand myself now, but...
Yeah, definitely. But like, you undersold yourself. Well, no, I undersold myself like quite massively. So I was charging 5k a month when I first, but I wasn't as big then, of course. Luckily, after that, I then started or got involved with and started Skilled Funded Traders. So that's my own company. So then that's not like a sponsorship. Even with TradeZeller, for example, that's not a sponsorship. That's an affiliate thing. So like I pitched him the sponsorship,
The idea, yeah.
but then he was down for it. He goes like, it might be a risk because I don't know if I'll make the return because it's a different type of product. It's a very low ticket product, so it would need obviously a lot of people signing up. But I believed in Umar's vision. I believe in him as his character. And again, it's kind of like sometimes you got to just take risks and to have the connection, you know, and to be able to network with that individual.
Yeah.
That was something I was willing to do. But I believed in his product. Like his product is incredible. TradeZeller is absolutely
even when
amazing.
I had him on the podcast, I was like, yeah, this guy's a genius.
Exactly. Bro, this guy, he said to me, and I always never forget it. He goes like, in my spare time, because we were talking about, what do you do in your spare time? He goes, in my spare time, I research companies and their financials. And I was like, who the fuck does that? Yeah, who does that?
who takes a break from work to do other work?
Exactly, yeah. And then that's when I knew this guy's gonna be a billionaire. Or this guy's on it. You know, he's already at places. He's going more places. But yeah, so I just respected him though. So I was like, okay, we'll do the affiliate. The beauty with that is, again, is like it's a guy I know I can trust, and the product is incredible. So like, I don't care if I do an affiliate for that versus if I do an affiliate for something that I don't know the people and it's probably hurting people or it's not got substance to it.
Yeah.
You want to be careful. You don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But with this, I have peace of mind. The thing with that one obviously is not as ideal because it can fluctuate.
Yeah,
but
of course, yeah.
We just trust it and we just let it go.
5K a month, you said, before.
Yeah.
How many episodes were you releasing like in a month?
I was doing one. Yeah, I was doing one a month.
One a
Sorry,
week.
four.
Four.
One a
Okay,
week,
yeah. And now?
Now we're still doing, this is interesting. We literally last month did about, I think 7 or 8. And that's more so because, this doesn't sound bad, but that's more so because like the competition in the industry now on the trading side in terms of podcasts is starting to rise a little bit. So essentially that was Josh's idea. Josh was like, listen, these guys are trying to come for your spot. So now you got to just flood the market with podcasts. And I was like, let's do it. But yeah, we did 6 to 8 last month. And we don't really have minimum 4. But because we have so many, and it depends on like, you got to play it. It's like a science, right? So like if one comes out and it maybe isn't as big of a guest, right? It doesn't do as many views. Now you can put another one out. But if one pops off, you want to let that play out a bit. So you give it more time. Yeah. So we're just playing the science right now, like this chess game, especially now with our competitors, you know?
So you don't have like a set routine?
I did, you know, last year I was like...
or schedule, shall I say?
Sunday, yeah. I started with Thursday, switched it to Sunday for a long time.
Yep.
And then now because I'm just releasing like multiple, we're just kind of throwing them on Mondays, on Thursdays.
See what works basically.
Yeah, just sort of posting them. But it's been fine. We want to get to a schedule again.
Yeah.
But we have so much on. And because we're releasing more than we usually do, we're just kind of saying, okay, this one will come on this day and that one will come on that day. But luckily I've been quite thankful the audience is very receptive to like just seeing, okay, this one he's promoting. I promote them quite often as well. So I'll promote it as like, this one's on Thursday at this time. While, you know, this next one's on Monday at this time. So they've been quite receptive, you know, and still been following along. So it's been very, very blessed with that.
So you mentioned something there about competitors.
Yeah.
Do you think the podcast game can be competitive?
I think it can in one way, only because people copy directly, right?
Yeah.
So like people copy my trailers, my thumbnails. And when I say copy though, so like I won't know the intricate details. I'll see it and say, yeah, they're trying to.
Do you know what annoys me about podcasts here? Majority of the podcasts I see online all have that one style of thumbnail. I call it the Stephen Bartlett style.
Yeah.
And they don't know any different.
Say
that again?
I have that style as well.
Yeah, but yours is at least purple.
Yeah, I know, yeah. But that's the funny thing. I saw that one. This is the thing though. I feel like you have to start with trying to take something on board, take inspiration. Then you need to find your own way, right? Like you don't just take it and then that's it.
Yeah.
You take it and then you find your own way. But I started with that. But like with the trailer, I was gonna say is my editor was the one like, look, bro, they've copied the font, they've copied the music, they've copied the pacing, right? And I was like, fair enough. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I get it. But it's cool. Like, I think competition is good. It's like that book, Patrick Bet-David, like Choose Your Enemy, right? It's like they're not my enemies, but essentially they're competition. So you need that. You need that to push yourself, right?
You need that fuel. You need that fire.
As we just said though, like people who just directly copy and don't put any of their own sauce in there, I can't respect that because it's just like you're not really doing anything yourself.
Yeah, I can't respect it at all. I've seen podcasts that have copied my exact name pretty much.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is actually a piss take because there's one thing, as you said, there's one thing getting inspiration from someone, but there's one thing just full-fledged copying the whole recipe.
Yeah.
I'm just like, you bastard. Just relax.
It is true, honestly. Like you have to, don't get me, copy, but add your sauce. Like you have to.
Yeah.
right? There's nothing wrong with copying. Like we don't have like IP. Like I'm sure we got inspiration. Like I got inspiration from obviously Stephen Bartlett for the thumbnails.
Yeah.
The trailer my editor did. I don't know if that's like a style, but that's like just dramatic trailers. That's it's not a thing,
yeah.
yeah.
But
like
that's what I'm testing.
If you comment the font, if you copy the font and the music and the pacing, then you just need to do something a little bit unique, you know.
Yeah.
And at least one thing I will say is if you copy at a high level. Don't copy like and make it worse. So that doesn't make sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, like one thing I would ask you though is like, you know, in terms of helping a friend start a pod, because I think one of your friends has a podcast, right?
Who?
Blue Tick.
Oh yeah.
So like I have a friend like Titans of Tomorrow, Wakar. You know, he's a good friend of mine. He started a pod as well.
Yeah.
And you know, it's amazing. How does that feel for you though? Like when you help someone start one?
If it's your friend from before, then yeah, safe. Like by all means, I still help Nike till today. Like anywhere I can, he will always call me up, throw ideas at me. I throw ideas at him. I'm still logged in on his channel. So when he first started his podcast, I was the one doing. I think I was playing around with titles and stuff like that, thumbnails. I'm still logged on in his channel, just check up, see what he does, check YouTube Studio, see the revenue and everything.
75.
Yeah, 75%. But yeah, no, man. With that case, I feel good because we're like brothers. We work together. We can never see each other as competition. Because we're not even in the same industry. He does criminals, I do entrepreneurs. Completely different.
Was that his actual thing, the criminals? I was going to ask you, like, what do you think to that?
He weren't doing criminals at first. His thing was called the Blue Tick Show purely because he wants celebrity blue ticks only. Yeah. Because at the time he had the restaurant Melon and there was a lot of celebrities that go there. So he was like, any celebrity I get there, I'm going to bring him on. But obviously some celebrities are snobs and they don't want to come on and everything. Then he got a criminal one, that done really well. Then he got another one, that done really well. And he just stuck with that niche. Okay. But with him, yeah, it's brilliant with him, man. Like I love having a brother or a friend who understands the podcast world because I'm not the only one in the friendship circle that is going through this thing. Exactly. Because one thing I find, and you may be able to make a comment on it as well, one thing that pisses me off more than anything else is you have some people in your friendship circle, whatever, and they don't mean it in a spiteful way, but it's like, yeah, but you do YouTube, you're chilling. I'm just like, you really do not have a clue, do you? Yeah. And those comments piss me off. But it's like, if I have a friend in the circle who's YouTuber, he knows. But yeah, those comments. Do you ever have those comments there where people?
I get it all the time. Like so, like with Bakar, for example, the same thing. There's a beautiful thing. Like the funny thing is, I met him. When I was a trader, I used to watch his stuff. Right?
Oh, is it?
Yeah, when I was trading, I used to watch his things. So that was another beautiful thing about the pod is that all these people you've seen, suddenly now you're meeting them, and then you're having mutual respect all of a sudden. Yeah.
I remember with Wakar, the way I met him was so random. It was literally at Juma and JBR, right opposite his apartment. And he started chatting to me and whatnot. And let me just click from there. This was like, I want to say almost 3 years ago now. And then just kept seeing him in Cabana. Yeah, the spot. The spot. And then, he is
literally the master networker. I've never met anyone who is as good of a networker as he is.
Bro, the way
great trader. Yeah. And just the way he carries himself as well. Incredible. Like, that's why I was so happy to meet him. But then, I remember we did the pod together. He was on my pod, and then we kept in touch, and he was always supporting as well, like the other pods I would drop. And then eventually, like he did mention to me, like, I've been thinking about doing it, and I was like, oh, bro, you'd be perfect for it. Like the way you speak, the way you carry yourself, the knowledge you have, and I know your attention to detail, you would smash it. Right, go do it. And he went and did it. He invited me as the first guest on his channel.
Yeah, saw it.
Yeah, and it's like paying homage, And I respect that massively because that's the sort of thing I'd love to do. When I did used to teach in the trading space, and I remember when I did, I went to my mentor and said the same thing. I said, like, I want to teach. Is that okay with you? Like, is that cool? Get his blessing, And I feel like that's how it should be done. Like, if you have someone who is an acquaintance or a friend who wants to do something, you've helped them to do something or something along them lines, or they're essentially going to become competition. It's good to sort of just had that discourse, and it's always sad when people use you. I've had people where they're like, tell me this studio, help me get this, can I get in touch with this person? But they don't tell me why, and then suddenly they launch a pod. Yeah. And I just don't respect that because it's like, why didn't you just say to me, hey, I'm starting a podcast, could you then do it? I would still do it, but at least now it's not seeming like you tried to just stab me in the back or try to use me, right, for your benefit, rather than it's like, hey, I'm starting a pod, would you help me with advice or getting this guest? And I would do it because I'm like, cool.
I've had them situations as well. Literally.
I can imagine. Yeah.
I want to show you a video as we come towards the end of the podcast, and I want to see your take on it, right? It's from a friend of mine.
I don't know what it's going to be.
It's not any sort of dirty video or anything like that, don't worry.
I'm not excited anymore.
But I showed this video to a couple of traders. Some said interesting, some said unrealistic. Watch that. I want your comments on it.
deposit $500 in your trading account. Now this is how you're going to make $3 million. You want to catch 200 pips a month for 12 months at 1% risk. At the end of the year, we have $4,458.05. The key here is to compound your profits. Now in the second year, we want to reinvest $4,458.05. Now we are going to use the same strategy by catching 200 pips a month for 12 months at 1% risk. This will give us $39,748.42. At the end of the third year of catching 200 pips a month for 12 months at 1% risk, this will give you over $354,000. Now at the end of the 4 years using this strategy, you will make a total of $3,159,874.11. If you want to see more trading content like this, make sure you follow and click the link in the bio. This is how you can
Thoughts?
If let's say I had the knowledge I have now, right? I'm not a podcaster. I have the knowledge I have now, and I take it at face value. And I'm a trader, etc. I just watched that video. I'd say, this is very unrealistic in the sense of like it's not reality, right? If I was a nobody and I'd never traded before, and I was just watching that video and I came across it, I'd probably think this is absolutely incredible, right? Seems very easy and there's steps to it. And then taking all that to one side of me being me, I don't know Shuaib personally. I've seen him for a long time on socials. One thing I respect about what he's done is that he seems to have, I've never seen any drama around his name, which is very, 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 very unique in the trading space. So that's a positive, especially for someone who has a kind of lifestyle in terms of cars and a trading floor, if you will. So it's very unique for someone in that position. And then what he's saying is true. Now, what he's saying is that is possible. Like those numbers do add up. The reality is just slightly different though, in terms of how many people would compound that long.
Yeah, because when I spoke to another trader, mate of mine, he said, well, are you really going to have the money in that account for that long of a time and not cash out a single penny or anything like that? Because surely in that time, if you've got 300k in your trading account, my friend used the word psychology. The psychology of it is, I can go and buy this, I can go and buy that. Exactly. The second you go and buy a 100 grand McLaren when you got 300 grand, now you just dropped to 200 grand.
Yeah.
And now you may add another year until you get to your...
Exactly, yeah. No, it's so true. Now, don't get me wrong, like I said, the power of compounding is real, right? That's the same, like the theme of what we talked about. Like when you compound your actions, that's real as well. Like success-wise will find you.
Yeah.
So the compound, like he's telling the truth. And the thing is, this is one thing I respect about the people on social media. So like even with himself, that is what social media demands of you. It demands a polarizing, not just a very balanced point of view. You can't like, if I did a reel, right? The way I balance that out is that if I do a reel where I say the Forex lifestyle is easy, people are going to get pissed off. They say, no, it's not easy. How dare you? Right? But equally, if I say the Forex lifestyle is so hard, people are going to get pissed off. They say, why are you saying it's so hard? You've got limiting beliefs. Just because it's hard for you, it's not hard for me, blah, blah, blah. It's hard in a 60-second clip or 90 seconds max with Instagram to be able to give you the true reality of the situation. Like for me to really tell you everything about trading, the goods and bads and all the elements, right? It's not long enough. That's why the podcasts are there. That's why YouTube videos are there. That's why you do seminars, whatever it may be. So I respect what he's doing in terms of that is a very thought-provoking and attention-grabbing clip. But it's just the reality of it would be different to an individual. Let's say if you had millions and you threw £500 in an account and you didn't care about it. Yeah, you probably could do it. Even then, the reality of the psychology coming in, you might see 300k that profit and be like, I do want to go spend that now.
Yeah.
Right? And it just longs out the journey. The best bit is the beginning bit, right? The first year that you talked about. That's the best bit. Because that's a reality. That's showing you a real truth of trading is that, you can take $500 and you could turn it into, compounding it to 4k at the end of the year. Most people are going to sit there and go, £500 for a whole year, I made 4k or 3.5k really, or 4k. They can say, I'm not bothered about that. That's no good, right? But reality in terms of percentage return on that is incredible. And now you apply that, say, instead of 500, let's say you had 50k. That's a lot more. If you had 500k, it's a lot more. And you just have to apply. So like the best way I explain it to traders is you learn the skill set, right? You build your edge, your discipline, and then it's just about applying it to more capital. So, and that's the beauty of these evaluation firms is that, let's say if you don't have a lot of capital now, they do provide an opportunity where you can have access and leverage more capital without putting your own money at risk. And again, do that in a disciplined manner, of course. And then your withdrawal. So that 10k I showed you there earlier from last week, That is from an evaluation firm. I will get $8K, 6K pounds. Cool. Let's say I take that 6K pounds and I put that aside. I save that for a personal account. Let's say I do that a few more times over the next few weeks, whatever. Now I have a 30K personal account, my own money to trade with. That's how the route should go, right? Okay. I know I've had traders on the podcast.
That's what Urimi says, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's his route. Yeah.
That's how most people are doing it now, right?
Yeah.
Or meant to do it now. Again, people unfortunately not being disciplined, throwing money at trading when they shouldn't be. Learn the skill set. But I've had traders on the pod, like Kyle. His name's Kyle. It's JCap FX, if you will. He's taken $1 million from prop firms evaluations, right? He could put that in a personal, for example. Yeah, there'll be, again, same principle. Like there'll be expenses. He's not just going to take all of it and keep it. It's taxes, expenses, buying things, holidays, whatever. But there's a large chunk there that he could easily have a 6-figure personal account that is his, which he could then learn to compound, right? So it's really down to diversification. Like you could do that video, like you could compound if you had loads of money. And then that's just a side thing, right? But if you've, that's why it's important to diversify. So like even with me, that's why I don't just do the pod or just trading. It's a dangerous game to play, especially in this day and age. Like the ones if I get cancelled, ones if I die and the podcast can't go on. What happens to my family, right? You need to create things that will then continue to grow, whether you work or not. Whether literally. One fails or not.
Create things passively.
Exactly. And that's why, everyone, the cliche, make 7 streams of income. Yes, do it. Don't get me wrong. In the beginning, focus on one. Right, build that one. That one will then allow you to make number 2. 2 might then lead you to 4. Yeah, literally. You'll do a jump then. 4 might then lead you to 7. That's kind of what's happened with me, right? So I had trading, then I had the pod. The pod then led to 2 or 3 more, right? But I didn't go like, I'm going to trade and do podcasting and this and that at the same time. You need to be focused. And the reality of that, allowing compounding to take place at that scale is when you're probably diversified. You have other income streams. So like him, he will have his own personal trading. He will have property, no doubt. He'll probably have his education. He'll probably have other businesses that are there too. So then if he wanted to do that compounding, he could probably quite easily do it. The reality for someone with just £500 doing that, the reality is that, like I said, it's true. They could do it. The reality of them doing it, though, is going to be different because of the same reason. Like, you've made $100,000. They probably want to spend some. They probably they might need to spend some.
That's what I'm saying, yeah. Literally. Why don't you have a course? Whether it be a podcast course or a trading course. Because I was thinking about making a podcast course, I'll be honest. So I might still do it, to be fair. But why don't you not have a course?
So I used to have a trading course. It was called the Viper Group. And
it's called what?
The Viper Group, like the snake.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So it's a funny story. So like,
I thought you said Viagra Group.
Well, everything goes up. Yeah, all the money goes up. The bank accounts go up. We're good. We're seeing blues. Yeah, that's. But yeah, so like it was called the Viper Group, and the funny thing with the name sounded cool, right? But I said like I used to work with that Amin Nat, right? And I left him because I found out it was all a fugazi, a lie, and all that. And when I left, I was creating this new platform. And we're thinking about the name. And I said Viper because I was like, one, it's a cool sounding name. It's a snake, right? It was like shedding of the skin, like the shedding of their they call it skin as well. Yeah, shedding of the skin, and like a new environment, new thingy. But then also I did it on purpose because I knew they were going to try and attack me online. So it's like they'll call us snakes, right? Because obviously Viper, they'll say, they're snakes. That's fine, no problem.
It goes with the branding.
Do you know what they did? They said they called us rats instead. Yeah, I was like, damn it, I didn't think of that. Yeah, but yeah, man, like, the Vibe Group was incredible. Because again, it was I enjoyed it. I never had plans to teach. Well, it kind of, I don't want to say it accidentally happened because at the end of the day, I took action to build it. But I was at Astro, which was Amin Nat's place. And I had done, because I'd obviously done their course, right? It's kind of going back to the beginning of the story, but I'd done their course. And because I had no aftercare, my mindset going there was 2 things. One, this is going to help my trading. I'm going to be around the best in the business, etc., etc. So I thought. And then 2, all I'll do is provide everything I didn't have, and surely I'll do a good job then, right? So I'll do the aftercare. I'll look after the students. I'll try and help them, etc. And that was my mindset, and that's what ended up happening. I mentored a lot of people there. I helped. I was the one who started doing webinars there. I started providing a lot of services to the point where other people who were joining Astro through other sales reps or customer service people or whatever, they wanted to be mentored by me because I was doing that well. And all I was doing, again, was just trying to provide value. And I always said this to Nat as well, which I never understood, is like, rather than just trying to make the most money in any way possible, if you just provided value to people, you will make the same money. You might make a little bit less, maybe. I highly doubt it, but let's say maybe. But at least people will like you. People will actually enjoy it, and people will actually stay, right? And your business will stay, Because what's the reality if you do things in the wrong manner, like the drug dealers, like the scam artists? What happens? It's short-lived. They might make a few million, right? And they might, don't get me wrong, I'm very sad to hear that he's still out there doing stuff, right? These broker affiliates now. But, you know, I did my part in trying to slow that down or remove that. But, yeah, like, it's sad that he's still there, but that business is gone. His reputation has also gone. Like, there still might be people who believe into the marketing side, but at the end of the day, people know that guy did dodgy dealings. That guy was not only... The beauty of it is that it actually shut down, right? That Astro, that brand, to really solidify that was a bad business, right? Bad business practices. The unfortunate bit is that people, you know what their thing was when I so-called or exposed, or their information got exposed? Their whole thing was like, they're haters. They took our blueprint. You know, they smoked our weed, which I thought was a really weird argument. Like, that's a thing. Like, okay, cool. They let we let their family come to the office. Okay, again, what does that mean? You know, where's the substance? There's no actually response to allegations.
Yeah.
Right?
To
the
what
reason
you've
why.
actually said.
Exactly. The reason why, though.
It's because they can't argue it.
Yeah, because he told me to my face.
Yeah.
You know, he sat there like this, like opposite each other, and he said to me, all these accounts are fake. You know, no one really makes money from trading. We just, you know, it's a reality. We can't change it. You know, all these sort of mindset. He even told me he doesn't trade. He doesn't like trading. Right? Yet you own a trading company and you're showing these fake profits and pretending you're using this money to buy a car. So essentially, this is one thing he did. He showed online, I made 300k profit, right? And showed a withdrawal. So you can fake all this stuff, this is how I learned about this, how bad the industry is. So he faked a withdrawal. So just made it. So again, it's all digital. So think how you could
just write numbers in the screen.
Yeah, you just write minus. And this is what I learned from him. He's told me this to my face. That's when I left. But he did that. And then the money from selling a program, which for that month might have been 500k, 600k in the month, he then went and bought a Rolls Royce, right? 300k car, cash. But showed it in a way where it's like, trading. So similar to these boys, right? These boys we mentioned earlier, that's what they're doing. I made this money trading. Look, it shows withdrawal. I went and bought this watch or this car or this house. When in reality, it's all just from whatever service or affiliate thing they're doing. So it's a sad industry. I'll be honest with you. It is a very sad industry. Those people put a really bad, light on it and a really bad energy to it, if you will. So when people hear about it, that's all they think about. And I respect that. I understand why. Because yes, people should be careful, but equally there are really good people out there. Like I said, Jade Cap FX, for example, Umar Ashraf, Paladin, Omar, like these people that your audience might not know, but there are loads of people out there who are genuine traders with genuine intention and really good value that they put out there, and some of them have services as well. Some of them do it for free. So there are people there. All I would say in terms of avoiding as well, the biggest thing I would say is just don't rush. Because that's the trick. You see, the lifestyle marketing creates impulses. I'm helping people make 10k today. Join, the 4 people who joined today. It's these little sales tactics that then triggers a response immediately. So the biggest thing to avoid any of these scams is just to slow down. That's it. All you have to do is go research the people. If you research their name, you will find because they're doing bad things, again, it kind of goes back to that point. Because they're doing bad things, there's always going to be some sort of review, some sort of video testimonial that says the truth about them, or loads of them. So like with Nat, there's going to be loads, right? While others might be hiding it a bit, but yeah.
Throw me back to that moment where he said to you, this is all a lie. These are the fake accounts, all that sort of stuff. Because surely at that point, you had moved to London from Nottingham to go and work there, thinking that this is all legit and it's going to be a great...
Before we get there, let me ask you something, because it connects to this story. Remember that Gurvind Singh?
Yeah.
So, he was talking about, these people did this and these people did that. Those are the same people who got into business with Nat to create this accelerated program, these fake accounts, etc.
Yeah.
Same people, right? And so I always find it funny when I hear him talk, telling these stories, and then that BBC documentary, because I was like, I knew, that most people don't know, but I was like, I knew all this stuff. So what were we going to say? Sorry, he was showing me this account.
Yeah, what was your thoughts? Because obviously you had moved from Nottingham to London thinking that this is going to be an opportunity of a lifetime. And
so don't get me wrong, I was there for a while. So when I got there, originally they had already gone through some drama. Like some old staff had left and there's this big palaver. But obviously they control the narrative of like, they're just haters and they want to start their own thing.
Yeah.
Plus back then they didn't have like this whole called fund. It was just a course, right? So I was like, okay, I went there, and then, for probably like 8 months of that time when I was there, bear in mind for 6 months, I just had a kid, right? So, and I went there to help my trading, and I thought this is going to help me accelerate my career as a trader. These are the top guys, But for 6 months, I drove there from Nottingham every day and back.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Right.
So every day there and back, right? And these are the things I would say, like, these are the the risks and the sacrifices you have to take, even though that particular venture didn't necessarily work out. But the truth is, I probably wouldn't have the pod or the platform if I didn't go there in the first place to learn about the industry, learn about the bad things, to hone my skills as a content creator and get in front of the camera, because that was sort of the first time I started to do that. So there are, again, I never just shun people. I say look, I'd learned a lot there. First time I went on a private jet, or the only time I went on a private jet, was because of a marketing thing they wanted to do there. So again, I had that experience. So there are positives there. But I drove there every day, right? Because they didn't want to pay me enough to live there. So I went there. The first 8 months was no one really wanted to buy their course. It was really bad. The names were kind of in the gutter. And then they came up with this program, which originally Gervin was meant to promote, but then they threw Gervin under the bus because of that bad investment. And those people then who were running that investment got involved with that, and created this program. So yeah, I asked them questions when they first came out of it, is this real? Is there actually jobs? Is there actually going to be a salary? I asked them more questions because it seemed a bit too good to be true, but they had a good story of again, I didn't think it was a story. I thought it was real. They're like, we have investors who are interested in Astro, the platform we built. They want to invest into our traders. Look, here's an actual, email address of the person handling the accounts, right, at this broker, or the fund as they called it. And I would have to email that person. Little did I know it was the guy 2 seats down, really, right? Who had just fake name and all that. But I actually emailed the person and be like, here's their account details, and I'd go back and forth with them.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist. But I sold this program, right? Sold it. I'm a good salesman because I have the sales background. So I did very well. But again, I would give value. I wouldn't just sell it and be like, okay, now that's it. I would actually teach them. I would do webinars. I would share my strategy. I would try and help them with their trading, and people would get results. So then that's why more people would want to then come and be mentored by me. So I'd done all this, and I'd been there now a year and a half, maybe closing in on 2 years almost. And one guy left who was their Joey, if you will, the one who would be the face of the courses. Well, they were the face, but then he would teach the courses.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a scam, double scam, where it's like, we're selling this course like we're going to teach you, but really you pay this money and then someone else will teach you. Yeah. So he left. So they wanted me to do it. And that's why he called me to his place. So he called me to his place and he goes, oh yeah, what is your vision with Astro? And I was like, yeah, I want to, because by this point I was making money from trading. I just made 30 or 40K that month from trading.
Separately from Astro.
From Astro, yeah. So then I was said to him, I want to make essentially 30, 40K because I'm making that now. And he was like, yeah, of course, we're going to open these offices. You can run Dubai office, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, cool. Then he goes, oh, by the way, this is how it's set up. And he started bragging. And he's very good friends with Aleem, right? And he would start bragging like, look, I know Aleem. We're going to get him to promote it. I know Drake's PT. He'd get him to promote it. I don't understand how that's a flex. Like Drake, it's not Drake, it's his PT, right? I don't understand. But he was just doing that. Like, I know all these people, they're going to promote it. By the way, it's all fake. Look, here's a 5 trillion account that I made on MetaTrader, which is the trading platform, just to have a laugh, right? And he was like, Riz, you can do anything. You can do Riz USD or Astro USD. You can do everything, And I was shocked, bro, because I was like, why is he telling me this? Because I was his employee for the last 18 months.
Yeah.
Right. And yes, we didn't sit there and chat or really hang out or anything, but I'd like to think, as a businessman who's apparently running this empire and a successful person, you're a good judge of character enough to say, Riz should not tell him anything because he's got good ethics and morals and he'd probably expose me or leave at least.
Yeah.
And he won't, have any part of it. But, instead he's told me. And then I remember calling my wife on the way home, like, why? Babe, I gotta go. I gotta leave this place. This place is terrible, It's the worst nightmare, basically. Because the worst thing of it is like, I was there. I was selling it, right? So it wasn't them selling. I was selling it. And therefore, then it feels more personal because I'm the one who's then, saying to the people, hey, join this thing.
You had some sort of guilty conscience after realizing it was a scam.
So I left. I went to Dubai for 2 weeks. I just booked it last minute. They were like, why, I literally said, next week I'm going to Dubai for 2 weeks. And then when I was there, I was just like, okay, I'm just going to leave. I got to leave. Came back. I had to tell them when I was there that I was leaving, simply because he kept trying to send me. He had this big thing about you guys should all buy Rolexes or watches because it makes makes the team look good, and I'll bring you into meetings and all this sort of mentality. It was really weird, and I kept saying no, like I'm not going to buy one. So then they started keeping my bonuses to then buy me one.
Oh, is
but
it?
they're not buying me one.
Yeah, it's your money. Yeah.
But anyway, when I was in Dubai, they kept hitting me up like, give us your address, we'll send you the watch. and then you can pretend you bought it there. And I said, no, I ain't doing that. Yeah. And then why? Trust me. And that was literally like, trust me, I know what I'm doing. Don't you think? And I was like, listen, I'm going to leave. Yeah. I didn't say why. I just said, I'm leaving. Why? I want to focus on my family, focus on them. I want to do my own thing. And he sat me down and he said to me, word for word, bro, like, the grass isn't always greener. Everyone who leaves, they regret it. And I said to him, to his face, I said, look, Nat, I'm not like you, like, and not in a bad way. I was basically saying, like, if I left and I failed, my trading went to shit or my course went to shit and I had to go get a job, I'll go back to the chunky chicken, the KFC. I'll go back there. I'll do whatever I have to do, right? So I'm not bothered about grass is green. I'm not bothered about any of that. So I left. And then what they did was they took my Instagram now, right? So they hacked, they had someone who worked at Instagram or Meta, hacked my Instagram, took the page. So no problem, right? Obviously, I was annoyed a bit, but no problem.
Why though?
Just because they didn't want... One, they were annoyed, obviously, that I left. Yeah. Two, they probably worried that I would expose them. So they took it. So I was like, okay. But then I got it back, right? Or got access to it. And then most people, when they do these exposing or they do these silly things, they do it with self-interest, right? They'll expose, but say, come buy my course. His course is a scam, but here I am.
Yeah,
right?
here I am. I'm here to save the day.
Exactly, yeah. And I don't like that. I think that's disingenuous. I think it's... I don't like doing it anyway. I hate drama anyway, right? Like we talked about earlier, I'm a very introverted person. But again, guilty conscious, man, of course. Like, I didn't want to do it because I had friends obviously who worked there and they didn't know still. Because I didn't go around like going, oh, he told me this.
Yeah, what's going on, all that sort of stuff, yeah.
But I had to do it. I said to my wife was kind of like, and ahhing, like, don't do it because of drama, and it's just like, why? But I said to her, look, it's eating away at me. Like, it's on my mind all the time. Like, these people are getting scammed, right? And these people are making money off hurting other people. So, but then that was the opportunity. This account that was gone, that essentially they had control of, essentially, I now had access to it. So I scrapped it of everything, took all the pictures off, any mention of me, and then just put all the evidence on there. From the Gervin Singh to those guys at the fund to every piece of evidence I ever had onto that account. And that just blew up and then their business went to shit. But I just made sure not to put like follow Riz here or here's Riz's course. Or I just literally...
That account basically at the point where you put everything online, it had nothing online.
There was nothing on it.
Nothing to do with
blank. Nothing to do with me. No link to me. No, it wasn't even following me. Nothing. I just put all the info on there. Only bear in mind, it had like 3,000 followers on it, but it destroyed an empire. And I remember... because they accessed that Instagram, they had the messages. And I remember I'd messaged someone saying like, I need to destroy that empire, basically along them lines. And I remember one of them putting a post up saying like, I'm trying to make a joke of it, like, yeah, bring down our empire type thing. Yeah, but now the empire's gone. So the main thing is nothing to brag about. It's nothing to be happy about or proud of. The only thing I'm happy about is that it's gone. Because obviously they were hurting a lot of people, man. They were literally they were at a point where they were telling people like, if people, these are the interest rates on bank loans and use your credit cards to pay for shit, just so they can get as much money. Bear in mind, this is how bad they are. They tried to sell me an account.
Oh, is it?
The staff members. They sold accounts to the staff members.
Yeah.
Right? So they knowing it's fake and knowing they're already making enough money from selling it to other people, yet they're that greedy, bro. They'll try and sell it
to their own
staff.
Yeah.
Right? And one guy they sold it to, I feel sorry for him, but they made him depressed. Because not only did they sell it to him, but they would treat him like absolute shit, right? Really ridicule him, be like, oh, your trades are shit, you're a shit trader and all that. Bear in mind, everyone who went there only went there to try and be a good trader because they assumed that that's what would be
the job
taking
was,
place.
Yeah.
But yeah, like they made it, like, bro, he was so depressed, he would cry, like literally physically cry, at the end of the day, to me. And I'd be like, listen, bro, if a place makes you this sad and people make you feel that bad, you should leave. Right? Like it doesn't matter about money, it doesn't matter about trading, it doesn't matter about nothing. Like if someone makes you feel that bad, you should leave. And there was that's how manipulative they were. That's how negative that energy was. Don't get me wrong, like I said, it's not like every single day was just a bad place because I wouldn't be there either. Like there was obviously great opportunity, great platform. There were unique aspects to it in terms of like the jet or other experiences. Like there wasn't really too many experiences, but just being in Mayfair, right? So there were benefits. I'm not gonna sit there. Like again, I started the pod there. So if you go back to episode 1 and 2, 1 to 5 or 6, it's downstairs at that office with lapel mics and one camera, right? And the guy, right? And they're the first 5 episodes of the Words of Rizdom. And then there was a break because I left there obviously and didn't do the pod, didn't have an editor and stuff. And I started doing normal YouTube videos, top 5 mindset for trading and a case study for trading.
Yeah.
This is how you can become a trader. Until I found out you could rent studios. Started renting a studio in London.
That's when the podcast was born.
Then that was it. But again, like I say it, like, it may have been a negative, and I don't sit here because they're gone anyway, so it doesn't matter. But like, if that didn't happen, all of that, the positives and the negatives, all the stress and the drama, because I had people calling me. He had a guy call me and was like, should I come to, and I lived in Bermondsey at the time, should I come to Bermondsey and see you? Right? And I'm there, I've got a wife and kid, and I'm stressing out a bit. I'm like, obviously I like to back myself, but obviously wife and kid and all this, I'm like,
stress.
This is a bit crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, so all that happened, right? But I would go through it all again, mainly not because of the pod or because of any of that, but more so because at least people didn't keep paying, right? And at least people could have closure knowing that. Because bear in mind, the whole reason a lot of people join is because they had this idea that at the end of it, they would get a salary and manage large capital. That's a big deal, especially in the trading space where it's, unless you go get a PhD and then get into some like quants and some huge hedge funds, you're probably not going to get any job related in the trading space.
Yeah, 100%, yeah.
So that's a big deal. Like they're suddenly getting this offer of like managing 7 figures and a 6-figure salary if you do well. Of course people are going to join. So that's another reason why I had to stop. Like I would go through all that stress again because people shouldn't be paying more, prolonging this inevitable demise or this fake end of the journey that doesn't exist, But yeah, that's when I learned how bad the industry is, man. Because it's just like, that's where you saw these people who had the cars and the lifestyle. And yet behind the scenes, it was all non-existent.
Facade.
Yeah. And then just how they would talk about people. Like even me, when I first went there, I remember I did like a good sales when they were having that really bad period. I did good sales 1 month. Yeah. And he sat me down and he goes, listen, you get, a little bit more, you can have you could go for a drink with Sean, or me and you could have a drink. And I was like, just pay me more. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care about having a drink with you. Like, I've respected you before, but like, it's not like I performed well, I get to have a meal with you or time with you.
Yeah, like there's some sort of king or something like that.
Exactly, but that's their mentality. Yeah. I feel like, fame, if you will, or followers and money in particular can get to people's heads.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? And I hope it doesn't happen to me, of course. Like, I don't know how it happens. I don't want to, is it something that they just are or just happens? Or is it something that happens at a certain point? I don't know. I would like to think it wouldn't happen to people like us. But yeah, it was really crazy to see. It was just crazy. That was the first experience I had with people who are like narcissists, people who like, really just care about money and fame and the notoriety and being viewed in this higher, as a superior to other people. And that was literally the mentality and the sort of language they would use as well.
Yeah.
Probably still do to this day. Probably.
Riz, to round up this podcast, I always finish off with one special question, which is, what does success mean to you?
Success means to me, I think success really is being happy with yourself. I think doing things you enjoy, but at a high level, right? So I think, though I wouldn't say money is success, but normally when you do things at a high level and you do things you enjoy, money is a byproduct and comes along. So I'd say like living in peace, living, where you're not looking over your shoulder, you're not worried about anything, you've done everything with good intention, you've worked hard, you've built something. And I think success really is when you have a legacy of some kind. Growing up, because of the thing with my father, I used to always think legacy meant in the history books, I used to always think like Marcus Aurelius, a guy who was here 2,000 years ago, was still saying his name. That's legacy, I used to think like that. Like you have to really get into the history books. And that's something that's really hard to do, right? And it's a great thing to strive towards for sure. But legacy really is just leaving an impact on people. So that's why I love the podcast. Like the amount of the legacy I'm leaving with the podcast alone is incredible because it's touching so many people's lives. It's helping people. It might be helping them with their trading, or it might be helping them just with their mindset, or just to believe in themselves. And that alone is incredible. And I think really success for me is like the impact you have even after you're gone. So like the things that you do in this life have been that impactful, even if it's on a small, forget podcast, even if it's like just your family members and friends and people who knew you go after you're dead as well. Like with my dad, if I meet people who knew my dad now, they say the same thing. And this is like 27 years later, and he wasn't a famous person. He wasn't a well-known person. He was an immigrant, right, in the UK. But yeah, people, if I go to the shop in the surrounding area, people will say, that guy, he's a great guy. He had good, and always positive, always helpful.
He left a legacy.
That's it. Yeah. And to me, that's success. Like, what more could you ask for? Even if you have no money, but you've left a legacy or an impact in that way, amazing.
thing.
If you've had money and left an even bigger one, right, and you made something for yourself and you built some foundations or just had an even bigger impact, absolutely incredible, you know. But either one is just success.
Riz, where can people find you on socials?
I'm everywhere. I
know.
Mainly YouTube,
Yeah.
Instagram. I don't like TikTok, you know. I'm not a big fan of TikTok. I still post there here and there.
Yeah.
But I just don't get the algo there.
Yeah,
man.
same.
It's so different. You know what I did? I'll tell you a funny story before I go. Is I just as a test, I was like, okay, TikTok, I need to try and get this, yeah? I did a clip where I put like a GTA driving scene underneath, yeah?
Oh, yeah, I tried the same thing. Yeah.
But I posted it on Instagram and YouTube as well. And my audience started ripping me. They were like, do you think we're kids? Do you think we have no attention? Right? And I was like, hey man, I was just testing it out. I'm sorry. But yeah, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter will be the best places.
What's that?
Oh, sorry. That's a good question. Words of Rizdom on YouTube, Words of Rizdom on Instagram, and I think it's like words of _ Rizdom maybe, or something like that on
TikTok.
Twitter.
It'll all be in the description anyway.
Thank you. You can tell I don't do this often.
Yeah, you do.
I'm not
As a podcaster saying I don't do this often. Oh, the guest side of things. Yeah. Makes sense. Well, guys, there you have it. If you want to tune into Words of Rizdom, make sure you click up here. I think it's that way. Click up here to check out Riz's channel. And if you want to see the next episode of CEOCAST, make sure you subscribe. Because if you subscribe, you're 100% going to be successful. And all right.
That's right.
That's
100%.
right. Facts. All right, guys. I'll catch you lot on the next episode of CEOCAST. Peace. Riz, appreciate that, my bro. Appreciate it. Let's get some pictures. Yes.